one they're getting about.
Hello there. How is everyone tonight? Welcome to a show that we have tonight lined up for you. What a show we have lined up for you tonight. We have a special show. We have, for the first hour, we have Miranda Maverick from the UFC. If you'll recall, we had her on about 8 episodes ago before UFC 289, and she's going to explain everything about the fight, the event, how it went. And then after that, we're going to have another guest, Jonathan Maberry. He's an author. He's he's written for TV shows and all kinds of books and comic books. And so we're going to have a great time. And tonight I'm joined by my regular cast of, co-hosts, misfits. I don't know. I'll just come up with all kinds of names for him. But it's the one and only Brenda and the one and only Bobby Diizzo. He's in the house. Yay. The chat is open. The chat is live.
I'm the first comment.
You are the first comment. I should like that. There we go. I'll put it up there for you.
The rest of you suck. First or last.
If you ain't first, you're last.
Ricky, I was high when I said that.
Before y'all go get on all this, let me tell everybody, remember to like, share, and subscribe.
Yes, subscribe is key.
Get it done.
We hit the big 5-0 with this last week. We have 50 subscribers. So Bobby's looking at me like, man, when you grew up, I had that years ago.
That was 4 weeks ago for me. You'll be 1,000 before I am, I guarantee it.
Well, I don't know. You probably got me hours-wise, but
I will tell you this. A couple of people that I had sent Bobby's show out on that I know, they liked Bobby's show, and they were like, hey, we got to watch this guy.
Everybody likes Bobby's show. I like Bobby's show.
Up and comer, as they say.
Bobby is going to be a star one day, and I'm just going to call him and go, hey, remember I'm the old guy that, let you on the show every now and then.
Shouldn't you have prostate cancer by now? Go away.
Right?
Wow, there's no love in Hollywood, is there?
It's like the opening scene of Austin Powers. Why won't you die?
Haven't your kids tripped you over your walker yet?
Somebody collected insurance on your ass yet?
If it's not the kids, it's the dogs putting the toys down. Jeez. Yeah, they're all trying to kill me. Miranda messaged me a little bit ago and said she's running behind. I know she was traveling to Florida to do an event where I'm not sure what it was. She was going to beat some people up or something, I'm sure. So she said she's going to be running a few minutes late. So I told her that's all right. There was that this week. So
secretly, I think.
Speaking of Miranda, I'm starting to feel like I want to get back to start jiu-jitsu again after too long of a break after my sciatica.
Your sciatica.
Kind of pumped. I was going to ask her something about that when she got on here.
Okay,
if she comes.
Oh, she'll be here. Yeah, Miranda will be here.
We have to
and she even said something that kind of tickled me. She said this time, implying that there may be a next time. I was shocked I got a second time, but she's kind of hinted that there could be a third time. So I'm excited. There's chemistry. She likes Brenda, not me. So that's the way it is.
Glenn's first date. I'm kind of shocked I got a second one.
Speaking of chemistry, I did notice that it's of no fault of anybody else on the Misfits because it's basically everybody's sleepy and it's Friday night or Saturday night. But the show is like this electric when it's just us and not the guys just hanging out commentating. It was kind of electric. I was like, wow, that's different than the Misfits where everybody's sitting back making fun of each other.
Yeah.
Like there's some real conversation. There was no lulls whenever you were on my show, which right now I'm Exhibit A, same show.
Well, it's kind of hard to get a word in edgewise with Brenda, so
yeah. I don't really blame like the group that comes on there on Saturday nights of having lulls. It's not really formatted. It's what it's for.
No, it's just like an old open.
It's like a blowtorch.
That's right. Somebody said, "What's your format?" I said, "Turn on the lights and the camera. Let the magic begin."
Do drugs, talk shit.
I did a little bit of moonshine the night before the show, so
coffee.
I'm not. I gotta go back to work tomorrow, so I'm off the caffeine this afternoon.
That was my own sound effect. So,
Did you say you had a shot of moonshine?
Yeah, I had a shot of moonshine earlier.
Where'd you get moonshine?
It's legal in Tennessee, darling. Where you been?
Oh, you're in Tennessee?
He ran some shoe polish through a pantyhose.
She was good, hoe.
He ran.
She tasted like blue raspberry. Finger looking good.
What movie was that I watched the other day? Oh my god, it was.
Hey, we're down to one viewer now.
Yeah.
And it's me.
Might be me.
Oh, that's funny.
I saw where an alcoholic was drinking the ethanol from a racetrack.
Ooh. Can they do that?
Picked up well, you could do it once. I picked up a teenage kid who drank that green alcohol, the wintergreen alcohol. Yeah, he had stuff coming out of his sides. Yeah, it was ugly.
Ew.
Yeah. The worst was the kid who actually drank Drano. That kid literally had stuff pouring out of his throat. It was ugly. Ugh.
Why do people do stuff like that?
Well, he said he wanted to die. He got his wish. So
that's horrible. Why would people do that?
Spoiler.
There's other ways. You just live your life and have fun and do what you're going to do, because eventually somebody's going to take you out.
Yeah, it's true. I figure one of my stalkers on TikTok or a jealous husband's going to get me. So one or the other.
Next tire for my car.
Okay. I don't really know where that came from, but okay.
I had to take it away from the dog. He's sleeping in it with his nose was stuck in there.
Well, it's because he figures that if he keeps his head there, his tail won't get run over. So.
Oh, that poor thing. His tail won't do the whole curly on top. It wasn't doing it when I got him, but I found out why.
Was it broke? It wasn't broke.
Our customs is stupid. Whenever you take a dog into another country or something like that, they have to stay in customs where you go for a little while. So
I'm not sure where we're going with this.
The dogs were all sent before the people got here, and they weren't very nice to him.
I thought the puppies were born here.
No, they were not. They were.
So you have an illegal alien living in your house?
He's not an illegal alien.
So you got a green card?
No, one of my other friends says that he's a Russian spy.
That makes it even better. God. No, you're just getting your insurance policy when we get overran by the Russians. That's all it is. So
hey, that's right. I got a Russian dog. I asked that lady, "Did you speak any English to this dog?" She said, "No, I speak Russian, and the dog is Russian." And I said, "Oh God."
I don't know. See, I don't know that I believe that though.
Oh, I talked to her on the phone. Talked to her, just language. Talked to her. Yeah. Ooh, Bobby Headroom.
You talk to the dog, or you talk to the woman?
The woman.
But a dog's brain is mush when it's born. So
that's offensive.
It's like a computer.
8 months old. He's almost a year old. So all of his life, anything he got, any commands, they were all in Russian. So I'm going to be learning how to do his commands in Russian. That way nobody else can control him but me.
Okay.
Just asking.
I can't argue with you because I don't know. But I will ask the pet psychic when she comes back. I'll be like, does that dog speak Russian?
Very smart puppy.
I want that dog on the show when the psychic comes back.
Yes.
I know, right?
And if that dog starts giving up secrets to Russia, I'm calling the number. You don't have a green card for your dog. I am turning you in.
The only thing he's going to say is how horrible it's been since he's been here. First, he's in customs, and they starved him because, customs is not going to boil his chicken and make him his peas and his potatoes. That dog eats boiled chicken and sweet potatoes and bananas and
okay, I want to explain how this works. He's a dog. He licks his ass.
No, actually, he does.
Well, he will. So he'll eat anything. You put it down there in front of him, he'll eat anything.
I don't know. He's really tiny and petite. So when he goes potty, it's like he shakes himself, so it makes sure it falls off.
Bobby, maybe we should just let her run the show.
He's pissy.
Digging her own grave over here.
I don't know why, but I'm looking like a stroke victim for some reason tonight. I look like one eye is up here.
Did you just say you look like a stripper?
Stroke victim. I got to look like I got one eye up here. I look all pale. I don't know what's wrong with my camera tonight, and I can't get. I don't know. Right? I am horrible with names, so I'm sorry, Mr. Mahadek. But humans lick their ass too, and he's seen the video, so.
I've been sitting here for a few minutes trying to imagine how that's even possible.
Didn't we do a show where somebody was taking a test we didn't know about?
Yeah.
Whatever happened with that guy?
He passed.
Yeah, yeah, he's dead. Oh, you meant the test.
Rest in peace.
That's not the guy who passed the test, is it?
No.
Man, I don't know. Sir, I'm sorry if I'm, but good God, I'm gonna need more moonshine, Mr. Mahadek. How do you say that? But if you passed the test, if you were the one, let us know.
Wasn't it? I think he was on my show, but he was on like two shows. Jiran Lee from Sri Lanka.
Yeah, there's been a couple. Yeah, there's a guy from.
Who was that?
From Saudi, but I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. But
I'm mixing them up. That's the most racist thing I've ever thought, because I just got the same two people mixed up. There was two different people.
Okay, well,
the Sri Lankan was on my show.
Well, he says that he is a first-time listener, and we thank you for being a first-time listener.
Sir.
We applaud it, and hopefully you'll subscribe and you'll be number 51. So.
I would encourage you to hop over to bobbydizzle.com and subscribe there too.
Bobby Dizzle.
He will only do that if you have video of human ass licking. So
I got it right there.
I want to see this.
He's got it right there.
Look.
Oh, you're Googling this. So for anybody that tuned in a little bit late, our guest will be here in a bit. So we're just shooting the breeze until then. So
I don't even think she's real.
Put my email out so that he can email this video. I've got to see this.
Oh, you want your email up there? I don't know if I got your.
Know what it is?
No, but I can figure out how to do this real quick.
Show email if you want.
Yeah, well, I probably would for a listener. I mean, not to. I don't trust listeners.
I don't care. You know what kind of stuff I get? It don't matter. I just delete it if it ain't right.
You don't read them half the time anyway. What is your email?
My regular one, it's B.
Well, no, the show one you got, because I need to put it in here.
That one is cereal, but spelled CEAR. EL. Oh, I mean AL. KILL. Oh.
ER?
ERZ. CLUB.
CLUB at Gmail?
At gmail.com.
All right, see if I got this right. And Bobby is, he's doing the.
Hey, you need one more, Bobby.
I actually thought about doing that. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Good job.
That is the weirdest spelling of serial killers I've ever seen.
Hey, we had to do it different.
I catch that, Bobby. I caught that.
What's that? Oh, a sippy cup.
Yeah. He's got his Brave shirt on, but
Just set it over here, Jack. I'll pick at it.
I don't know what button. I just hit.
What'd you hit? Oh, I like that.
Who knows?
That's nice. That's
so
almost like when I got Chris.
First time listener, she would like you to email proof of that that email.
Oh my God. You can Google that right now.
Oh, Bobby's gonna Google it. Let's see.
Oh, I know. I don't have to Google it. I know it's
I mean, really their own? I mean, I can understand somebody else's, but their own? How did they do that? You gotta be a flex. You'd have to have no ribs.
I saw the funniest video today. Speaking of that, it's called Scientifically Accurate Ninja Turtles. And it is the funniest scientifically. And apparently turtles have really long appendages.
Yeah,
they do.
And they can lick themselves.
And have you ever heard them have sex?
I don't make it a habit to listen to turtles have sex.
Well, there's video of it on the internet. And let me tell you.
Let me tell you. On the internet.
Let me tell you. It is the freakiest thing. A friend of mine, she's not in the chat right now, or I'd call her out, but a friend of mine showed it to me. Where did it go? I don't know how to make your thing go away now. That's great. Oh, there it is.
All right. Look at you go. There you go.
So, Bobby, when you signed in, did you use your own sign in, or did you just come in the normal, old fashioned way?
Came in the normal way. Because I forgot till just now that I could do that.
Okay.
I came in the normal way too. I didn't even think about it.
Bunch of lazy bums. So I think I figured out how to set up and record a show for later. Just like we invite everybody to the studio and we record it, saves it on the hard drive, and then I program Streamlab to just say go at 8:00 Wednesday, and boom, it uploads it. So
I had Kinko fries. I haven't eaten yet. I'll tell you what. Let me get a minute to eat real quick, and you talk to Bobby, okay?
Whatever.
I'll be right back. I'm listening. I'm listening to y'all.
She's listening. I'm gonna hide her on the screen. She's annoyed me.
Piss me off.
Yeah, I was playing with the green screens earlier, and I just can't get one I like. So I'm gonna just buy a green screen.
I don't like the way they look if you don't have enough light.
Yeah, that is a problem. But I feel like there's something. My lighting, I look too pale, and then tonight I feel like I look like a stroke victim or something. I feel like I got the eye droop or something. I know it's just the glasses, but it's annoying as hell. Maybe that'll help. Will that help? Maybe I do that.
Need a warmer light.
I have experimented with all kinds of lights in here, but wearing glasses makes it more difficult. So, I don't know.
I got this light that has all kinds of colors on it.
Oh, you got one of the little disco ones.
Mm-hmm.
And you can change it with the app.
I can just touch it. This one makes it look better. It's bright, but it's bright, but it looks good.
Well, I can't figure out what makes me look good. I think it's going to take an act of God. Mama always did say I had a voice for radio, so. Or face for radio, I mean.
Face for all radio.
She says, you got a face for radio, son. Of course, my dad was a DJ, so. It didn't help things. Well, maybe, I don't know. That's better. Maybe I need a light behind me. Maybe that would help.
Yeah, the light behind works. I mean, look at my light back there.
Yeah, I should do that. I should do that. I'll have to play with that and see about trying different lights. I just feel like if I take glasses off, I can't read the dang screen now. So, sucks getting old, man. Sucks getting old. Well, any new things and exciting with you this week?
Now the internet in the neighborhood was off all day.
Oh, no.
Came back on a couple hours ago.
I bet you were in panic mode.
Area-wide outage. I didn't really mind it. I mean, I had the cell phone still, but the kids were freaking out. They were tripping. I went into the DVD closet. I was like, let's watch a movie. And my little one walked over and sat in my lap. She goes, what are these? What are these things? I'm like, those are movies. I got like 1,000 of them back here.
Oh, that's funny. Did something just fly in front of the camera?
Me? Might have been a fly in here.
Oh, okay. I was just saying, you already got orbs or something?
No, it's just these big lights back here. If there's everything in here, it flocks by.
Comes right in there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I had orbs in here before.
I know. I'm lucky I haven't had that yet, so. I haven't had that yet. I'm sure I will, though, so. But
there's a big fly in here.
Yeah, this last week, nothing new and exciting. I was reading some things in the news. A woman got eaten by alligator while she was walking her dog. I read that, and that was in South Georgia, I think. I was like, that's kind of crazy. And then depending on
a dog got eaten here in Huntsville
by gator.
Yeah,
that far north.
Oh yeah, this place is eat up with them.
Really?
Yep.
That far north.
Yeah, in Tennessee River.
Really? I did not know that.
In the swamps and stuff.
I did not know that. I didn't think they were that far north because We don't have them in Atlanta. Well, I'm going to take that back. There's one in Atlanta that they've been trying to catch for 20 years, so they say. So he lives in, I think, Lake Anna, something like that, and they try and catch him every year, and he eludes them, and he's been on the loose since I've moved here, so he's been loose for 20 years. He hadn't killed anything or anybody, so I guess that's all right. But yeah, I didn't think they were that far north.
Yeah, it's not like Florida or anything, but they're here.
Yeah.
Somebody ran one over. My bus driver ran one over back when I was in high school out by my house.
That's funny.
So it's always been like an inside joke that like the Gators, they call it my little map dot I grew up on is called Pikeville. And I was calling the Pikeville Gators.
All our bus driver ever did was wreck all the dang time. So I think on the way to school, and we probably had 3 miles to go, maybe. I don't know. It wasn't far. And next thing you know, boom, we're in a wreck. It was a regular thing.
My bus driver hit my dog once.
Oh my God. That's horrible.
Yeah, I think my family hid it from me.
Oh, so he killed
yeah.
Did. Well, oh my God, that's horrible.
I think that my family like hid it from me because I kept hearing rumors about it my whole life, and I'm like, whatever happened to that dog? The bus driver hit.
Oh, that's sad.
I wasn't too attached to it.
Well, you were kind of young, so.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Well, what else is new and exciting? So I wasn't prepared to go for a half hour by myself. The second guest we have tonight, he's going to be talking about some cool things too with the comic books and the crime novels. And I was reading some of his stuff tonight, skimming through it, and I don't know how the man has that much imagination. The thing that got me though was he had basically the pandemic already, I don't want to say written out, but the playbook for it, and before it occurred, it was like another one that did this. I'm like, how do they do that? How do they have that kind of imagination? Are they CIA agents? What's the deal?
There's a lot of people that did. I think it can only go so many ways. So I think they just had a good time with it.
I can see that.
I think pandemics only go a certain, especially since it basically did the same cycling as the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
With the because the Spanish flu had the first wave that was scary but not that bad, and then it had the second wave once all the soldiers came home.
Now they're saying we're going to have the bird flu.
Oh God, that's what SARS was.
Yeah, they say this one is because the frogs have been eaten by bats that ate the birds that did something. I don't know if I buy all that, but
I can't do another pandemic.
No, being locked in the house was too much. But, well, I mean, I got to go out and go to work and stuff, but you come back and it's like everything is shut down. You can't go anywhere. It's like, this is crazy. Why are we doing this, people?
I don't even know why the Spanish flu got to be so bad.
It wasn't, I mean, it was, but it wasn't as bad as COVID. But they didn't, well, they locked us down for COVID, so I'm sure we're driving.
Killing people in their 20s. It had a much higher percentage rate for like regular people.
Well, I think what got a lot of people was the people that didn't get locked down at first were the ones I think that got the sickest. At least I saw a lot of that when we were out working. There was a lot of people that, just, we're not going to listen. We're not going to do anything. And those people got so sick. I got the shot and still got it. So I was like, I guess that didn't work out the way that we planned it. So
I had antibodies before I got the shot, which I don't know why, but I had to.
What do you get them from the government?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They probably give you the secret shot.
No, I got the same one. down on the road in the annex somewhere. They make you sit around and wait 20 minutes.
Well, my wife got an interesting email saying that the national COVID emergency was over, and it gave the dates, and it said something. It was from, I won't say her employer in case somebody's listening, but it was from her employer, and they were like, the next one and starts, and it'll have this, this, and this, and was telling them what to do. And do you know what the date on the next one was?
Well, like next week,
July 10. She looked at me and she goes, what's today? I was like, yeah, as her work has sent a letter in the mail. Came today saying that the pandemic emergency was over, and that the next wave of the emergency would start July 10th. And she's like, what's today's date? I was like, did they postmark that too early, Beth?
that's weird.
They found some migrants carrying malaria over the border. Well, malaria has never went away, so, but, and that doesn't surprise me. That's usually the drinking water, so.
Yeah, let's open the border up. It's safe.
It's best idea ever. So, it's from The Simpsons. That's one of the things they said. Just open the border. So, that's who, I think Matt Groening runs it. I think he's the man behind the curtain, so. You all right? You're having a moment.
My thing here is around my monitor, so I gotta look around here to see it sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bill Gates mosquitoes. Well, somebody said that they released some mosquitoes, so if they did, we're in trouble.
Just kind of hoping the whole how I made it and all the COVID times I had COVID, it was anti-Semitic. Or anti-Semitic. No, it was asymptomatic.
There you go.
My COVID was anti-Semitic.
You didn't get really sick.
No, not at all. Not even.
Oh, I was. Oh God, I was sick. It was close to a month before I felt like I was getting any strength back. It was horrible. It was.
I had the anti-Semitic COVID.
Well, it must have been a different strain. Elizabeth's making fun of you, and I'm here for it. But yeah, I was not so fortunate. So, oh, wait a minute, we have a hostile viewer or listener or co-host back.
I ate so fast, I'm probably going to get the hiccups, and then y'all be laughing at me. Oh,
well, see, well, just keep the shirt up in there; it'll be all right. So we'll get views.
You didn't eat
I was getting attacked by 2 dogs and a cat while I was trying to eat.
She was yelling at her manslave, and he didn't want to go, so she had to beat him.
I was yelling at you while I was listening to you guys talk about COVID.
So
I just couldn't hear me because I was just slaughtering everybody all over the damn place.
Well, that's all right. Bobby became extremely anti-Semitic, so.
I heard that.
I was so mad when I found out that's what it was. I was like, so if you just keep the healthy people home and keep the healthy people away from the sick people, we're just fine instead of all this lockdown and crackdown.
Yeah.
The naughty librarian is back.
I didn't wear a mask. I didn't do that. I was trying to get it, and I couldn't get it to save my life. I was going inside the emergency.
We're still talking about COVID, right? Just curious.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were sitting there hacking, and I was like moving I couldn't get it to save my life.
My daughter went to pick up somebody at the University of Tennessee hospital, literally went into the ER, came out of the ER, and she got it. That's where she figures she got it. We can't be. You could have got it at Kroger's from a grocery bag, but that's where she figures she got it.
I had it while I was in Gatlinburg, but I think I got it before I left.
I brought our strain from Pensacola, so I know exactly where I bought because the aunt was sick, so the wife's aunt was sick.
Vladimir Putin over here would like to be a co-host while Mommy has a cigarette.
Well, let me explain how this works. He doesn't have a green card, so I can't legally display him on the TV. So
he has puppy papers.
I need to see those puppy papers before we can do that because I don't know. I feel some kind of way about a Russian dog. So
all you gotta do is just look at that face. Wait a minute, maybe
that's really not doing it for me. So
it's that face.
It's like a work garbage can.
We're a garbage can.
What's that the kind of garbage can you have?
My R2D2?
Yeah.
Bobby's not worried about dog. He's like checking out her garbage can. He's like, what kind of garbage can is that?
I'm getting a profile read on Brenda. So I'm gonna put you
He's scanning it.
That's so hilarious. Yeah, I have to have one with the lid on it that swings because, I'm a little retarded. If you just give me one that's open, I'll put shit in there that'll smell the whole house. So,
Just a little retarded.
a little retarded.
I'm sure that probably offends some people. So we're up to 4 viewers now. So hopefully everybody will hang tight and our guest will be here soon. Yep, and they're gone. So
and I'll be right back. And the Russian puppy will probably.
God almighty, she takes more breaks.
I had to eat.
Listen,
you're not a very good smoker if you can't smoke in your house.
Listen, work wife.
I won't. I don't want to. I used to, but
trust me, she'll run the dog over to go get a cigarette. So.
That's not true. I did not run him over going and getting a cigarette. I ran him over.
A blueberry lemonade vape or something.
And he stepped out from underneath my bed with his tail first.
Blueberry vape.
I'm late. I'll be right back.
It's horrible. That's horrible. What kind of show do I run? It's like I'm running the Misfits Tonight for some reason.
I thought about not coming on because of all the problems in Russian today, but now I'm glad I did.
Me too.
Here by yourself.
I would be. I'd be lonely. I'd be like, "Where's my Bobby? I need my Bobby." I can't run the show without my Bobby.
Okay, there you go. Say that again.
Even though, gotta be careful. I'm a snake, so.
Snake in the grass.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. We have A-listers that come on our show, so we don't worry about what other shows do.
It's away while I'm out here, okay? You just sit there. Don't you jump either. You'll hurt yourself.
Who's she talking to?
Jump, stay there.
I don't know if she's talking to Jack or nope. The dog's going to commit suicide. I don't know. I guess because we're going to be invaded, so she wanted to make sure they didn't take her.
So you don't jump and kill yourself.
Great. Now you're going to give the dog secondhand smoke. That's just great,
This
Brenda.
dog does not like me out of his sight. When I'm out here, he'll bark for me if he doesn't see me. I have to leave the door open. Jack said he needs a job.
Oh, Lord.
So, Tom Segura's new special came out yesterday.
Oh?
And I haven't listened to it yet. I think I'm going to after this.
Okay.
You know how tired I am.
Are you going into the office or are you staying home and working?
I'm going in.
Okay. Well, that's nice. Did she just run the dog over?
Poor thing's dead now.
Oh. I was going to try and see how loud she has her screen. Oh, scare the dog. Yeah. No, between her and Jack, they're going to take it over. They're going to, well, I don't know. If it only speaks Russian, we'll have to learn how to speak Russian with the dog, so.
You need to get Jack on the show.
We would be honored to have Jack on the show, but he is never allowed to. She's always cracking the whip, so we can't do it.
I never knew if he was allowed to or it was like some kind of HIPAA thing.
No, she won't allow him to. She keeps yelling at him and saying, "No, you can't do it."
Poor Jack.
Poor fella. I just need better lighting. That's all I need. I look like a stroke victim or something. I don't know what the hell I look like. We're glad that it's a live show and Brenda just takes her time and does whatever she wants. So.
Yep, it's all right.
You know, the show is all about her. So.
It's live.
It is live right now. You're right. And the 3 viewers which is probably one of each of our screens logged in. So
you cannot have a live show if you don't do things live.
I don't even know how to argue with that.
I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless.
You're speechless. No, you're not. Bobby's never speechless.
Hey, Bobby, I'm going to order pizza. Can you run the show for me?
Yeah. We'll run with some.
This is what I had. I had Bush's chicken. Oh,
Never heard of Bush's chicken.
Oh, it's good. It's good chicken.
Never heard of it.
Ask JT about Lucas.
Is it truck stop chicken?
No. It's a nice little drive-through window.
Hold on a second. She just messaged me and said the link wasn't working here. Hold on a second.
Heard of Bush's chicken. Seen it on TikTok. Send her a bad link.
I sent her what it sent me.
Yeah. Yes. How do you say his name? Hughie?
Wally Dallenbach.
Wally what?
I have no idea.
Holiday Maldek.
Sorry, I was busy doing show stuff here. Well, he wants to know if you really want to see that video, or are you bluffing? Sir, please send it to her, because she will tell me all about it, because she's not a believer. And
I will tell him, it's not that I don't believe him. I just want to see how this is possible. What is this person missing? How long is their neck? What?
Oh,
Do
God.
they have Simmons beat with a tongue? What?
Okay, hold on a second. I got to be professional for just a minute. I'll post her email again here. All right, so we're going to invite Miranda in. She is with us. And, well, she says she's with us. I hope she's with us. So, I think she's having some technical difficulties. She's traveling right now, so it's been a little rough on her. Let's see. Here is the email to Brenda's show. So.
Is it going to be like me when I was on the road and I kept passing over cell towers?
No, she's probably in a hotel. She's up in, I think she's in Florida. I'll have to go look again. I don't know, or she can tell us. She was going to teach some people how to beat other people up. So, which I'm a fan of. It's always good to teach people to beat other people up. Well, nope, she's gone. So,
what'd you do?
That was it. That was it. I had her for a second and she was gone.
I think Glenn pushed the button.
No, I did not push any button.
Whoa, little feedback.
Yeah, you've got YouTube or Facebook or something open. You need to turn that off for you, Deaf and Brenda. So I muted you. We'll unmute you and see how it goes. Oh, you're still out.
I took off everything.
Well, you don't have Facebook open. Hold on, I got to get rid of that. You got too much stuff going on here. Hold on, I'm gonna open her back up again.
It's still the same.
And I've got your mic all the way down. It's not me.
How about now?
That's much better. We can still hear it though. Have you got a speaker, Bluetooth on or something connected?
Nope, I took off all that as well. I'm just doing regular phone, like a phone call. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Are you on your own phone?
Yes.
You probably still in the background got the other tab open.
Nope, I already checked that. I deleted all tabs.
I don't know. Suggestions, Bobby? Bobby's my technical guy.
Oh yeah. That's me.
So I just double checked my other Safari tabs too. Nothing's open.
Not even Facebook?
Not even Facebook.
I don't know. I'll sound weird. So.
I would probably recommend starting from scratch.
Okay.
Coming all the way out back in.
All right, I'll give that a shot.
Sorry.
That's okay.
All right, I'm gonna.
What are we doing? What happened? Where'd we go?
I'm wondering if when she clicked on it in Facebook, if it opened the Facebook Live and it wasn't in the background too. So
I don't know. She called just like she did last time. That's how she was on last time. Was on her phone. So I don't know why it's.
I don't know. It was kind of weird.
It is weird.
There's something up. It happens. Every 2 or 3 shows I have that happen. I'm like, oh God.
Yeah. It's funny. I've had things happen too. So okay. Let's see. Oh, you're there.
Can you hear everything fine?
I can hear you great, but it's still like it's open. Can everybody else hear it? Or is it just me?
I can hear it.
Feedback.
I
Okay.
can hear feedback as well, yes.
Okay, so it's not me. Well, I guess we'll just work around that.
Okay.
So you're on the road?
I am. I'm actually in Florida right now in the Miami area. I've been cross-training out here. I'm doing meet and greets tomorrow night and the next day at a local UFC gym, and then I'm also teaching 2 seminars this weekend.
So you are teaching people how to beat people up.
Right, exactly.
How you been?
Yeah, tell us, how have you been? How's your eye?
I won't disclose everything, but basically I had an optical concussion that was very severe during the fight, which made my eye, like my optical nerve swell to the point that it just shut my eye off. Because of my retina surgeries I've had in the past, my optical nerve has been like moved a little bit to where it's directly against my bone. So if I get hit in the bone, it kind of like vibrates down, hits my nerve, and crap goes wrong from there. And unfortunately, there's no real solution for that whatsoever. But temporarily, I am good. I'll be healed back and hopefully good to go in the next month or so. They have warned me no head contact whatsoever for a month. They said 2, but then I told them, we know that's not realistic for me, so give me a realistic timeline. And they said a month should be fine. I do have floaters in my eyes, which could be somewhat permanent, so I'm dealing with that right now as well. And my fight career might be shortened a little bit, but I will be back hopefully this fall to winter and go from there.
I've got floaters in my left eye, in my right eye. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it can be very annoying.
Yep.
Miranda, when you were on last time, we didn't have Bobby. He's one of my regular co-hosts, so he's not just a creeper up there. I mean, he kind of is. But
Oh yeah. And like you, I was recently injured by jiu-jitsu, so I feel your pain. Not quite that bad.
Oh no, what happened?
I got a bulged disc
Ooh, yep.
from just falling and stuff,
Yeah,
he's old.
I know that story. I've actually had I have 2 bulged discs, and I've gotten a few of my discs to where the nerves connecting to them are now fried. Basically, they went in and like electrocuted them to where I have no nerves, so that I couldn't feel the pain. It doesn't help anything, but at least I can feel the pain.
I was real close to my blue belt when it happened. And now I'm scared to go back out there.
You gotta have your blue belt, and then you get to leave. That's how that works.
Then I can quit. Yeah, I think a chance for the blues. The blue belt blues.
To be out there, to be
honest.
So Miranda, when you were going into the fight, you felt fine. Everything was good. And then you just took one hit, and that happened? Because I saw in an interview that you said that you were at one point almost permanently blind during the fight.
Yeah, so in the second round, it wasn't one hit that did anything to me. The third round, I got hit, and it made it worse. But in the second round, I think, like I said, it was just like a concussion. I probably got hit somewhere in the head. It bounced around a little bit too much. And my eye just started going very blurry. Like I could see blobs, in the one eye, but that was it, like barely make out shapes. And of course that messes up the other eye, trying to connect those dots when you're not used to it. That was all of round 2 after I took a shot. Like that's kind of the reason I took a shot. People are like, should have listened to your corner and not taken a shot. And it's like, well, that's kind of my home game, is the ground. And when you have a panic attack in the middle of a fight and wonder what's going on with your eyeball, you kind of just go back to whatever your home is, even if it's a bad decision. And so I went for a takedown. Then In round 3, she did pop me with a good cross, I think it was. I haven't rewatched the fight, don't want to quite yet, but I will eventually. Whatever she hit me with caught me again good in the 3rd round, and it made me go like completely out of it in my left eye, like just a wall of gray to black pretty much. And I got very scared at that point. That lasted for about, well, it lasted that whole round and then about 10 minutes afterwards, and then slowly the gray kind of started dissipating. I started getting some like color back, then blobs, and it probably took about 3 days before I could see pretty well with my left eye again.
At any point in time, did you think, just call this? I know that's not in you, but...
I didn't even want to tell my coaches in the corner. I didn't tell them in the corner, because I know my coach has a mic on him. I was afraid that somebody'd hear that, get a doctor, have it come look at my eye, and I knew I wouldn't pass whatever test they were going to do, even if it was holding up fingers. And I don't have a single finish on my record, of me at least. I don't plan on having one on my record. I've lost decisions, and I guess I can live with that. I don't really want somebody to say, no, I finished her in the fight, especially when it wasn't due to their credit of beating me to the point of finishing me. It was just a medical thing. And in my view, I was like, what's one more round gonna hurt or help? I'll finish out this fight and do what I can, and maybe something miraculous can happen and I win it even with one eye and being scared to death. But I kept it to myself and knew I was going to try to finish the fight no matter what.
Yeah, that's kind of a she'll go or she'll low situation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's you're amazing, but I'd have thrown the towel in. Well, I'd have got hit and thrown the towel in.
It's like one of our viewers has a message for Miranda.
What's that?
Oh, I see it.
Oh, it was down there. Okay. I gotta agree. In the 3rd round, I was thinking she's coming out for a knockout. That's it. So.
Yeah, I was trying to throw elbows or whatever I could, but like I said, I couldn't really see very well. I kept getting hit when I'm used to being able to move out of the way, and it was a terrible fight. At the end of the day, it was just a terrible fight, and I'll be back and do better. I don't think I, skill level wise, should have lost that fight, but things happen, and I believe that things happen for a reason, even if it's to push me to the next thing in my life.
That's right.
I'm with you. At some point in time, one of the persons reviewing the fight said that they thought that she was fighting dirty. Now, I don't know enough of the rules, but I didn't see that.
I didn't see anything that she was fighting dirty. I mean, in the clinch, she was good at the clinch for sure, but I don't think she fought dirty. I've had, like, Sabina Maz was the only person I've really ever fought that I was like, wow, you're just cheating left and right. So everybody else has been great.
Okay, good. Yeah, I hadn't heard that. And didn't think so. When I watched it, I went back and rewatched it. We were live on this show. And if you would watch this show, you'd hear me. I sounded like a dad. I was like, oh, no.
That makes me sad. I don't want to watch that episode. My dad actually was not at this fight, which I don't know if that was better or worse. I don't like it when he's there when I lose, but this is the first one that I haven't dominantly finished when my dad wasn't around. He wasn't able to make it.
Good luck, Troy.
Yeah. So
Canadians are notorious cheaters.
Tell him from now on, you fight.
Right. He's like, now I have to be there every time forever so that you don't lose. I'm like, okay. But before that, I always got vicious finishes every time he was not around. So he was like, maybe I should go away and you'll be meaner in your fight. And I was like, I don't know. Maybe that is how it works.
So what is your favorite submission?
Probably just rear naked choke. It's the king of all submissions. It doesn't have to necessarily be the triangled one. It just is the one that makes sure nobody keeps fighting. I used to say armbar, it was back in the Ronda Rousey stage, and I finished a lot of fights with an armbar when I was an amateur and early professional. So that was my favorite as far as which one do I like to do. But as far as my favorite submission overall, the one that I think is most useful, the best one, it's by far the choke, especially in self-defense scenarios. Like, it's the only actual submission, the triangle choke and armbar, are the only ones I teach in my self-defense classes, because I think they not only work the best in scenarios where you need self-defense for, but also are the ones that absolutely eliminate your, opponent or aggressor.
You can make people do a lot of stuff with an armbar.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it works from every angle.
Exactly.
Like,
Once
no
you
matter
learn
where
the
they're at.
concept of the armbar, it's pretty much everywhere as long as you get a hold of their arm.
Did you have something, Monday? You look like you had a question. You're twitching.
How long are you going to be in Florida?
A few more days. I will be here until Sunday because I have that meet and greet tomorrow and Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday I teach a seminar, and then finally I will head back home. I've been on the road since my fight. I went straight from Vancouver to Denver, packed my bags, left the very next day, went to Missouri, stayed around my family for about a week. Then I went up to Kansas City and trained there a couple days to cross-train, figure out a couple gyms. Went from Kansas City to North Carolina, trained, taught, did seminars, went to Virginia, taught seminars, went to my eye appointment, all that. And then went up to Pennsylvania, did the same thing, and also did some work for Hershey that I work for, and then flew to Florida a couple days ago, and now I'm here for a few more days.
Are you going to take any time off?
This is my time off.
Oh. Okay, well, give it 10 while you're there.
I never really take actual breaks. I always tell people I'm on vacation because I got 2 hours on the beach. That's my vacation,
There you go.
I feel like when I take breaks, I get I wouldn't say anxious, but I just feel like I need to do something. I might as well do it to improve whatever my goals are at the time. But I stay busy no matter what. Even though this is technically a break week for me, I've been busy all day. I've been on phone calls about 5 hours of today, and every other hour I've been training.
Don't get old. Stay where you are.
I'm feeling it. We already joke that, so we joke in the gym that every fight you have is a year added on to your life.
Oh, jeez.
Right? So I'm like, well, I'm solidly in my 50s, if not 60s at this point, so I'm feeling it.
I keep saying, don't get old, man. It's a trap. They like us.
At least add that onto your knees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back,
all
knees.
joints. All the joints.
Yeah, I like you have optical nerve problems, so but mine's a result of intracranial hypertension. So it's a little bit different. But when that optic nerve gets screwed up, it causes you'll see things will like go far apart.
Yep.
It's weird.
Yeah, I have, because I'm still recovering from the concussion, I've had several different symptoms, and some of them are almost amusing to me. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like I was jogging down the boardwalk at Ocean City, and the boards that are crossways, like horizontal, just started all blending together, and I was seeing double, and so it looked like the boards were like doing little warpy shapes in front of me, and all of them were like moving, and I was like, I know they're not, but that's what it looks like. And I was trying to explain to my husband, and he was like, yeah, that doesn't sound like a good thing.
Yeah, it's crazy that you're going back to fight after that, because I had a friend that was in Iraq, Afghanistan, had a bomb blow up next to his face, had the same injury. They kicked him out, but you're still out there doing it.
Well, that, and I've actually had 2 retina tears in the past and gotten surgery on both, so even talking to you guys, I have no real peripheral vision whatsoever, and I have 2 buckles around, a buckle around each of my eyes right now that are kind of holding me together, and that'll be that way until I die, basically. So it's definitely an extreme thing, but when it happened, I was a day from making my UFC debut, and it's kind of hard to just throw that away when you're at that level. If I was just a pro and hadn't been already right there on the doorstep of making my living, or if I was an amateur, for sure I would have been like, peace, I'm going somewhere else, doing something else with my life. And I still plan on it. I just see this as a chapter of my life. It's not like I'll be fighting until I'm 40 or anything like that. So time to get it while I can, do it while I can, and then start to a new chapter of life that is hopefully just as impactful and just as valuable.
I guess the next chapter is going to be the Joe Rogan experience.
I hope so. I hope I get on that at some point. But for me,
I'm surprised you
there's
weren't.
so many business ideas.
I think she's going WWE.
That's
my
know.
hopes.
They're gonna hurt me worse than the fighting has.
True.
You had to get some guy
I was
liner.
thinking about it for a while. I think between last time I talked to you and now, I've pretty much decided that's a no-go for me.
Oh no. Well, remember, you still have a master's.
Right. I still have my master's. I mean, honestly, my job with Hershey is what most people dream for a whole life career. And I'm just like, oh, it's just a side gig.
Yeah, I asked my wife, I said, do you have any questions for her? And she says, nope, those are all her decisions. Because she was watching the fight and I was trying to catch it in between bits. And I asked her the next day, I said, did you see it? And she said, I almost couldn't watch. I'm like, oh, God.
I hate it when my first fight that somebody sees is like a bad one, too.
Well, we had watched plenty of your YouTube and other things, but that was your first live one, and I know it was your first primetime ESPN. But you're going to be back. I know you are. Now, so what's the process of getting booked for another show? Or, I'm sorry, fight.
I don't really have the choice over when or how, but I have put in the timeline for when I want to fight this fall, and my manager goes from there, tells the matchmakers, and then it's just a game of twiddling my thumbs until I get something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it's not just like signing up for the IBJJF.
No, not at all. I always love it when fans are like, "You're not active. You're this." I'm like, I don't get to make those choices. You know, the people
You don't get a free T-shirt.
Exactly. The people who turn around and fight 3 weeks later, that's not up to them either. It's just they say, "I'll be ready," and they say, "Okay," and they get lucky.
You don't just drive to the fight and Chick-fil-A and do it.
I wish. That's how I do the IBJJFs pretty much.
Yeah, starve yourself for a month.
No.
Well, Miranda, I know you're busy, but will you come back again? I do have a show scheduled. I'll have to get you some dates, but it's for a police officer that's going to be teaching some defense things for ladies. And if you are actually open that night, I'll email you the info. And if you are open, that would be kind of cool to sneak in and surprise me and show him, go, well, officer, let me show you something.
That'd be pretty cool. It'd be really cool. You should find out where it's at. I have done police ones before and done like all kinds of self-defense seminars, of course. But if you guys have any followers and stuff that want to have me out for a seminar or want to have me teach at a local gym that they have, let me know. I'd be happy to come out there and spread some knowledge.
Okay.
I think
Well, I
Bobby
got you started.
at his office there and teach him a few things.
Oh.
Just in case to fight off.
Bobby, you might have to message me the gym that you went to for jiu-jitsu. Maybe I could check it out.
Yeah, I go to the same one that Eric Anders came up in.
Well, I don't remember.
It's okay. It's
actually way before our
time. It's actually called Maverick Training Center.
Really?
Training Center.
My car doesn't
Maverick
like how
Training
long we've been talking. It keeps shutting off lights. That's why I keep messing with it.
It's fine. It's in Huntsville, Alabama.
It's literally called Maverick Training Center?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I obviously have to come. Tell them.
Yeah. I wasn't going to mention it or anything.
No, you should mention it. Tell it.
He'll go in there tomorrow and he'll be like, hey, I'm Miranda. Don't mess with me.
I guarantee our movie time.
In exchange for bringing Miranda here.
like a ransom. I know I'm hobbling in here on one leg. Where's my blue belt? I guarantee our instructor admire you. They've talked about you before, especially after that fight.
That's awesome. I love it when I can go somewhere that has my name. It's super cool. Plus, then they want to buy my gear too because it's not like a blasphemy to their gym name, you know?
No, the head instructor was called Maverick when he was training. By I can't think of his name, but we're at Andrew Galval gym.
Okay.
He comes there and does seminars.
Gotcha. Well, that's pretty awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I might not be popular enough for a place like that. I'm not sure.
Whatever. You're modest.
Don't beat yourself up.
Well, sometimes like the Galval gyms, obviously some of the gyms are way bigger and they're like, oh, we have a we have 20 UFC fighters training in here. Why would we want you to walk in and do a seminar? And I'm like, oh, that's fair.
That is not the case.
Okay. Well, then I will definitely check it out. I appreciate you guys working with me. Sorry about the running late thing. I had a training that I tried to get to and ended up being later than what I had anticipated, but got out of there in time to at least talk to you guys.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
No.
Oh, he was going to show the homepage there.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Cool.
All right.
Got it. I'll message you guys if I have any questions about it. You'll have to get in touch with Bob to make sure of it.
Yep.
Oh, where did she go?
She's there.
Still there.
Okay, well, that is Jonathan, so. Oh, I see what I've done. Hello, that's our second guest of the night. This is Mr. Maberry from, am I saying that right, sir? He's from the West Coast, and he was coming on at 10 to talk to us about his books, and he's got some comic books and all kinds of cool things.
Very nice. Well, you guys have fun. I will talk to you later, and yes, please invite me next time.
I will certainly invite you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
All right, thank you. All right.
Hey.
All right. There we go. There.
Oh, the echo disappeared. Yay.
Yes.
Yeah. So
That's the thing with phones, man. Phones can do anything.
Sometimes they work great, and sometimes they don't. Hello, sir.
Still a good little talk.
I was during that part of the martial arts thing because I'm also, 59 years in jiu-jitsu, Japanese, not Brazilian, but long career in the martial arts too. So it's always nice to see the next generation coming up and looking so strong.
She was a guest on our show. By the way, I don't know if you caught me introducing you or not, but welcome to the show. I'm Glenn, Brenda, that's Bobby. We're just kind of a bunch of misfits here and hang out. Miranda was on our show about 8 episodes ago, and right before her fight. And then her fight aired the night of our show, and I was like, I'm sure you heard me tell. I was like a dad watching it, and I was trying to get back and forth between the screens and stuff. So, but she took a rough hit, and she was blind. I would have tossed the towel, but she was blind during the whole 3rd round, and
that's freaking wild, man.
It stayed in there for 5 minutes.
That could have been permanent easily.
Yeah, I understand that though. When you're in the moment though, you don't want to let anything stop you because you don't want to be defined by pain equaling stop. And so she's tough, and I really admire that.
Yeah, she's a very strong girl.
Yeah, she's very tough.
Over the years, after martial arts, was a bodyguard for years and a bouncer. I've been stabbed, chopped in the shoulder with a meat cleaver.
Now these things aren't on your bio.
Yeah, I know.
That's the bonus point.
I even had spent some
talk
time
about it. I've been bit, run over, shot.
I even spent some time as the expert witness for the Philly DA's office for murder cases that involved martial arts, and that was some interesting but very grim work back in the early 90s.
Wow. Maybe you should add this to your bio. That makes your cool factor go up.
A lot of it filters into what I write, though. My characters fight well because I understand fighting. And
makes sense.
There's nothing that any of my characters do in a fight that is not legitimate to what would be done in combat.
Okay, well, that makes sense. It makes perfect sense, really.
So Walker, Texas Ranger wasn't realistic, is what you're telling me.
I want to let you down easy on that one, but
you're telling me that everybody that fought Walker knew karate, and everybody fought Trebet knew traditional street fighting.
Well, it's like Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Every vampire that wakes up is a kickboxer suddenly.
Everybody practiced Muay Thai.
Yeah.
When they die and cross over. Everybody does jab, cross, teep, jab, cross, teep. Jab, cross, left, cross.
So anyway, in response to your welcome, thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we like to have fun here. I always joke and tell everybody, I said, well, what's the format? What's the show about? I said, well, it's kind of a show about nothing I throw together with people I think are cool. So
well, I hate to disappoint on the last part, but
no, you said you've been shot, stabbed. You got the cool factor. Shot at, okay. Shot at. Well, what's even better if you avoid them?
It was fun though. in a not true sort of way.
Well, looking back, it was, but at the time, I'm a firefighter paramedic, so I get it. I've had a couple of those things happen too. So
they make great anecdotes, but terrible memories.
Yeah, good stories to tell the grandkids not to do.
Yes. Yeah. Don't let your sons grow up to be cowboys or martial artists or bodyguards.
Firemen, yeah.
Please,
Yeah, Brenda's my resident cop, so Bobby. We're thinking Bobby's a secret squirrel or something for the government. We're not really sure what he does. So
don't worry about me.
International assassin is what I read on that face. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Could be.
You'll find out in season 2 what I'm doing. I'm the one nobody suspects. The kink in the timeline.
No, I'm the one with my leg in a wheelchair, Bobby. I'm the one nobody suspects.
You're Kaiser Soze.
Yeah, she's in the wheelbarrow, least expecting it, and then she whips out an Uzi and jumps up and does something. So yeah,
I'm the one with the Russian dog.
It's funny. Two things about that. One, there was a show way back in the 70s called Longstreet where it was a lawyer who was blind, and Bruce Lee came in and taught him to fight. And there was another show called Ironside where somebody in a wheelchair. And they had one episode where he actually got into a fight too, and it was choreographed, I think, by Bob Wall from Enter the Dragon.
Really?
Yeah, and I in the 80s and 90s, I taught a program called Steel Wheels for folks who are in wheelchairs, teaching them because nobody expects you to fight, and boy, are they surprised in that short duration between finding out and getting ambulanced off. So never underestimate somebody with extra wheels.
I actually had somebody one day come out of a bar that was drunk and tried to kidnap me in my wheelchair.
Good Lord.
And somebody was arguing with him on this side, and he was over here, and he was arguing back. And I figured out that I am at the right height. And boy, let me tell you, when my elbow connected, that boy folded, and it was over.
A shot to the entertainment center, as Bill would say.
Actually, yes.
Big fan.
Well, so tell us. I sent Dana, I guess your assistant. I said that I was going to be all excited about the comic books, so I was going to have a million questions about that stuff. Tell us about what. First off, tell us what future plans you got coming up, because I'm going to go off on all the old things. So.
See, I'm in like year 4 of this weird phase where I'm writing 4 novels a year, one every 3 months, and they're not short novels. I mean, the most recent one that came out, Son of the Poison Rose, was 700 pages, and I wrote it in 3 months. It just seems to be the rhythm I can do right now. Plus, so over the next year or so, this year I've got the new Joe Ledger book coming out the end of August, K-13. Collection of short stories coming out a week before that, and a deep space science fiction alien invasion first book in a new series coming out the following week. So I have 3 books coming out in like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, and the last one is co-written with my buddy Weston Oates, who is ex-military intelligence, who is also a really great writer, good friend. Over the next couple of years, actually the end of this year, we also have the 100th anniversary book for Weird Tales. I edit Weird Tales magazine, current issue.
Okay.
Mike, if you're into comics, Mike Mignola, Hellboy cover story.
Okay.
We have the 100th anniversary of Weird Tales, and it's going to have classic reprints, H.P. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard, and so on, but also people that most people don't associate with Weird Tales, but who publish there, like Ray Bradbury, Richard Matheson, Tennessee Williams. Published in Weird Tales. Yeah, I know.
Really?
That's the reaction we usually get.
Yeah.
Tennessee Williams. Under the name Thomas Lanier Williams, he published in Weird Tales. So it's a bunch of classics, a whole bunch of brand new stuff, and it's just a fantastic book. We just passed our 100th year. March was our 100th anniversary from when the book was launched back in 1923, and so it's nice to be spearheading that celebration, plus editing the magazine and editing anthology. So I've got and short stories and comics. I'm under agreement right now to do a Joe Ledger horror comic. So it's one of those things where I've got a project all the time, day and night, and I love it. You can't give me enough of this stuff.
Somehow sounds like the dream.
It is, and
I could do this kind of stuff. Yeah.
I didn't start the fiction thing until I was 48. My first novel came out when I was 48. So all those years before that, I was kind of leading up to it. I was writing martial arts articles on the side, which was my main gig, martial arts textbooks and so on, and articles on other subjects. But I didn't really think about writing a novel until my 40s. But now I realize that this, like everything I've done, all the reading I've done, the people I've talked to, is kind of all led up to me doing this. But, I just turned 65 and I want to do as much of it as I can in whatever time I have left. And if that means 4 novels a year, then yay.
So you're knocking out a book every 3 months.
Yeah.
Tell George R.R. Martin what the what's he doing?
George and I have had this conversation.
I would like to think so, and I'd like to hear about it right now.
There's a credible rumor that he has the last book in the Fire and Ice series done. It's just that he doesn't want to turn it in. The theory is that he's afraid that no matter how good the book is, it won't be the TV ending and it won't be the ending people expect. So he's probably going to get flack from both sides. So he's kind of just holding off.
Well, the TV ending was awful. So
yes, I agree. So I'm a bunch of us want to do the Annie Wilkes thing and just make it
opposite direction, like the exact opposite.
Yeah.
They made all these storylines and paid off on none of them.
Yep.
Like Lost called wants their strategy back.
Yep. So but it's fun. I mean, I am actually living the dream. I mean, you think about what the job description is.
Mm-hmm.
Professional daydreamer. I get to make stuff up for a living, play inside my own imagination, and get paid for it. And that does not sound like a real job, but I'll take it. So.
Where'd you say you were located? Sorry.
Well, right now I'm in San Diego. I moved out here 10 years ago. I grew up in Philly, and not the good part of Philly, the really bad part of Philly. Grew up there. Started martial arts when I was 6, back in 1964. Jesus. Moved out here partly because it's close to Hollywood, but I don't have to live in LA. San Diego's 100 miles south. Partly because it's incredibly beautiful all the time, and partly because, have you ever been to San Diego? Because if you are, there is no compelling reason not to want to live here.
Yeah.
So
pandas.
Hey, I have a mountain lion.
Pandas.
I have a mountain lion that visits my parking lot.
Well, the reason I asked is my uncle is I don't know what I'd call him famous, but he was from LA and Chicago, and he's a playwright, and he's about your age. And I was wondering, I wonder if they know each other.
What's his name?
His name is Alan Gross.
Rings a bell, but not a strong one. So I may not have seen his place, but I'll make a note of it. Look him up.
Yeah, he's from Chicago. He lives in Chicago now, but was in LA for years. We went out in high school to see him when we were on a band trip.
I made a note.
He reminded me a lot of him. Just to get to do it for a living, real bubbly.
It's
really
great.
excited.
There is no part of it that doesn't. I mean, even the tough stuff, like I just got edits for a novel, and the first novel in a new series that I'm doing under a new brand, a new imprint called Weird Tales Presents. Blackstone has this new imprint, and I'll be doing the first novel for them. And because it's the first one coming out, the edit notes were, let's just say, extensive. I mean, not as thick as say what the New York phone directory would have been, but in that zone. So I've been mapping that up. But even that, as challenging as it is, I'm editing a novel. What the hell do I have to complain about? It's all great. I love it.
Worst case, you take a walk on the beach.
Yeah.
Where your novels that you put out, where can people get those?
Everywhere books are sold. As long as you spell my last name right, I'm easy to find. And
okay.
I think I've got 44 novels out now, and 4 in various stages of production, ready to be released.
Yeah, I've heard quite a bit about some of your novels. I've got a friend that is really into sci-fi and action and a little bit of horror, and he has read some of your stuff, and he told me, you got to get some, you'll really like them. I'm like, well, I think that I should.
Sounds like he's talking about the Joe Ledger series.
Yes.
That's my most popular series. It's also the longest running series. It's 13th book coming out this year. It's weird science, action, and sarcasm.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah,
So-
he said that that's a really good series to start with if I want to just start reading them. He said that would
That's
be
my
a really good
podcast
one.
name.
And also, Brenda, it's one of those things where with a lot of action series, you usually have like an 85 to 90% male audience and a tiny female audience. It's pretty evenly split between male and female readers.
Yeah.
The character is likable. He's psychologically fractured. In fact, I think the precise medical diagnosis is crazy as a bag of hamsters.
Oh, so his name's Glenn.
And he and I share a love of Hawaiian shirts, coffee. In fact, we're actually launching a Joe Ledger coffee brand. Local roaster.
Really?
The regular strength, is called Joe Ledger's Nice Cup of Whoop Ass, and then there's the decaf blend named after Joe's best friend in the series, Rudy Sanchez, and it's called Rudy Sanchez Brown Sadness Water Decaf because that's what it's called, decaf.
I love it.
Ledger Coffee Roasters.
Yep.
No, that's not
It's,
it.
one of the local coffee roasters here in San Diego is a fan of the books. Met me at a book signing, and we talked, and we worked together to come up with blends that I think are the right ones, and they're delicious as hell. And we're going to be putting them up for sale sometime later this month. And my portion of the proceeds
Awesome.
will benefit no-kill animal shelters.
I think Bobby and I are the only
It's even
coffee
more
drinkers
awesome.
here because Glenn doesn't really drink coffee.
No, I'm a sweet tea and Mountain Dew man personally. So,
Trying to get
I have a
away from
coffee-
that Mountain
I have a
Dew.
coffee problem.
Do you drink bourbon?
oh, absolutely.
One of my dear friends has a bourbon brand called Brothers Bond. It's Ian Somerhalder, who was in my show V Wars and also in Lost.
Okay.
Vampire Diaries. And Paul Wesley, who was also in Vampire Diaries, is now the young James Kirk on Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Mhm.
They have a bourbon brand, and it is crushing it around the world right now.
Okay.
I love it. That
I'll have to check that one out.
Vampire
You did Alien
Diaries.
versus Predator? What is happening? I'm looking
Yeah,
around.
I did Alien versus Predator, the anthology. I edited it.
Okay.
Oh, edited it.
I'm going through looking around, familiarizing myself.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, when you start looking at his work, you find he's got, like you said, he's got 40 novels, and you start in the comic book world, and you're like, okay, we're here. And I was like, wow.
Yeah,
So,
I've got a bunch of comics. I mean, and we can talk about those when you have comic questions because there's some cool stuff there. Plus anthologies I've edited, 26 of those. Short story collections and 100. So I've done 150 short stories. Bit of everything, plus 20 some nonfiction books.
and I was going to say TV stuff too, right? TV?
Yeah, I had one TV show called V Wars. V is in
That's
Vampire.
right. Yeah.
Launched on Netflix right at the beginning of COVID, and it was about a plague. So
Mhm.
even
I
though
remember that one.
during the
Hear about
launch
it.
it was the #1 show in 120 world markets, Netflix got scared the plague show wasn't going to work, so after one season they canceled us. But we are prior to the WGA strike, we were working together with some screenwriters to come up with a new take set X number of years later that we're going to shop elsewhere. So after the strike, we'll be going right back to that. Got 5 other things under option and 4 TV shows possibly about to be optioned, and a movie in development at Alcon based on my teen post-apocalyptic zombie series.
Okay. So selfish
then-
question time.
Yeah.
Sorry. Do you have any insight on the Cloverfield universe and
I
J.J.
don't.
Abrams?
I'm a fan of the first movie quite a bit. Like the second one. 10
John
Cloverfield
Goodman.
Lane I liked. The Cloverfield Paradox I thought could use a lot of work.
They kind of shoehorn that one in.
Yeah, but they are doing some new Cloverfield stuff. They're going to go back
Yeah,
to
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
Huge fan.
I
of
love
that. I'm
that. I
just
love
like,
that. It's one of those movies you can watch all the time.
Yeah. Like, just make another one, JJ. Just do it. Just give us. Okay. I saw
Yeah,
your
right,
books, and I'm like, I wonder if he knows somebody.
No, I don't on that particular one, but I do know a bunch of folks, and that's one of the, going back to this whole this is my dream job thing. There's something I never expected, never even thought about when I was starting writing is that I would get to know almost everyone whose books I read, which is really freaky. Steve King and Dean Koontz and all those guys. Never thought I'd actually get to know them and actually know them, be friends with them. That's weird. Second is because of working with TV and actors from this show and that show wound up in your show, and they're friends with somebody else. I wound up getting to know a lot of actors. I know a number of people from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer show. I know people from Battlestar Galactica, from all sorts of places. It's really Harold Perrineau from Lost, who's now on MGM Plus.
That's such a good show.
Great.
I want Stephen King to be my dad. I want him to adopt me.
He's a great guy. He's a really down-to-earth guy.
I own everything he's ever put out. Everything. Books, movies.
Well, Salem's Lot was a great influence on my first novel. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I think From is going to be legendary if they do it right. I think From is going to be legendary if they do it right.
Yeah, well, they just got renewed for a third season, and they do actually have a plan, which is nice.
I hope so. It reminds me of Lost and The Walking Dead, which are two of my favorite shows that got ruined.
Well, Harold Perrineau had the same thought because he was the star of it. He's the sheriff there. And he was on Lost, and it was very frustrating for the actors. Both he and Ian, were both on that show. Very frustrating that they had no real plan.
It was always the Walt.
Yeah, let's just throw this in, and maybe we'll figure it out down the line. But actually, From has a plan. It has a story, so I'm really happy with that.
And I was
a romantic person.
I was going to ask you.
Glenn is dying right now.
No.
Glenn wants to get into the comic book stuff.
Well, no, he was talking to people. I was going to ask him. Two of mine were, of course, Harry Turtledove. I don't know if you know him. And I just love his stuff. And Kirkman. I'm sure you know Robert Kirkman. So
I knew back when he was Bob before he became Robert Kirkman.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say
he was funny because every time he would do a book signing, he'd be like completely stoned out of his mind and having the best time of his life. And I've got all the Walking Dead books behind me, and most of them are signed by Kirkman.
Oh dear.
That's awesome.
I got them too.
I wish they had stuck closer to the books.
Yeah, it'd be amazing if they did.
Yes. I think you got a panel that agrees with you there. I was afraid that
what's it?
Then you wouldn't have Daryl Dixon.
True. I mean, they could add stuff to it, but in terms of plot, the comics actually went somewhere. They had a resolution. But I do like the new show, Dead City. I'm kind of digging that.
I'm a huge Negan fan, so I got that. So. Even though he did kill Glenn, but
he's been paying for it one way or another.
Well, I think I read a poll somewhere that said that out of all the comic book villains, that Negan was the worst one, that he had like the most kill. And like number 2 was the Joker. I'm like, how is that possible? Then I got to look at Kirkman. And I was like, I don't know, maybe, but
no, Joker's killed more people than Negan.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but they were like, well, it's a bunch of zombies you don't see. I'm like, but it's really a kill. But at any rate.
He's killed a lot of people and a lot of zombies, but still the Joker, I mean, mass murderer.
Oh, yeah, Joker.
Which, by the way, makes Batman somewhat complicit because every time he arrests him and sends him to Arkham, he knows he's getting out again. Every death after that point is on him. I'm not saying vigilante justice is only right at this moment. If I'm Batman, it's like the 5th time Joker's done that mass murder. I'm going to, oops, batarang in the throat.
I agree. Just kill him all right.
So this might be why you haven't written much for DC. Is that
here's a funny thing. I actually was halfway through a graphic novel for DC.
Really?
Yeah, I was doing a Superboy graphic novel, ecological horror story for them for this new direct to high school line of graphic novels they were doing, and just like I'm literally halfway through writing a thing, having the time of my life, and the entire line was canceled during one of DC's many reorganizations. Warner Brothers does not know what it's doing with itself, and it's getting in its own way, and it's a shame because. I love the comics. I love the animated movies, and I love the TV shows DC's done. I hate most of their films because they don't respect the audience who was in love with the comics. Do the stories that we grew up in love with. Do those. Marvel did it really well, and they've had some stumbles, but overall they've done it because they kept everyone in continuity. Like. Why the Flash movie doesn't star Grant Gustin doesn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Why Green Arrow and Black Lightning and so didn't show up in a cameo in one of the movies? Come on, you've got these great actors who have defined the characters with huge fan bases.
Mm-hmm.
But I digress into rant.
No, I agree with you. DC's hard to follow along with because, like you said, next thing you know, oh, New 52, or it's this, and I agree with some of it, but you can't continually do it. At least Marvel, they'll hiccup along the way, like you said, but they'll either come back or they'll somehow write it in. Or I have no idea how they wrote a movie 20 years in advance of the Avengers finale, Endgame, that they wrote, but I mean that just blows me away. So
yeah, and they respect the continuity. I mean, they've as you said made some stumbles. They had this one thing, it was kind of like New 52, where there was this white flash and it started everything, and then they kind of just like pretended it never happened. It's like kind of like new folk. They just like
it didn't happen. That was an alternate universe.
Yeah, but when they did the Ultimates, which was their way of doing more realistic and modern origin stories, that wound up informing the movies because it was easier for people to grasp without 75 years of continuity they had to catch up on. And so now that's an alternate universe, and it works out really well. So,
yeah, and well, now they have their fingers in everything. I mean, not directly, but with Disney, because they've got they've got the TV, they got the animated, they've got the comics, and so they've got everywhere to spread out. So they've got a huger. That's not even a word. Larger. So
huger.
But and most of it is good though. I mean, there are some stumbles. I'm not a fan of Eternals.
No.
There are a couple of things that they did that I'm not the audience for. The Eternals, I didn't like the comic either. So though some things I didn't like, but there are some things that I really absolutely do love. I think Captain America: Civil War and Captain America: Winter Soldiers are two of the finest thrillers ever done in any genre. And Civil War is probably the best superhero movie. That battle in Berlin Airport, I live for that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan, of course, of Black Panther because the new movie, 40% of it is based on my comics, so I'm really darn happy about that. A lot of people don't know that. When Reggie Hudlin was doing his run on Black Panther, he wanted to try something new. Marvel was going into this phase where they were bringing forward a lot of their female characters, and I was already doing some ghost writing on his comic for him, doing some storylines because he was busy on a million different projects, and so he had me essentially do the storyline to introduce Shuri as the Panther, and that was when he handed the comic off to me. So I actually was the first person to put Shuri in the Black Panther armor, and in my run I put her up against Namor. First time that's ever happened. I also created the Midnight Angels, which in my comic were a special ops group within the Dora Milaje. In the movie, they changed it to a new kind of body armor that Okoye and Anika used toward the end. Anika is the one with the two laser daggers, and I created her for my comics. So I had a lot of fun writing that comic in 2008 and 9 and 10 rather, and I didn't know how much of my stuff they used for the movie until they invited me to the premiere. And my son and I went up to Hollywood. It was at the Dolby Theater where they have the Oscars every year, and we were third row. The cast was right behind us. All these celebs were around, and we watched the movie, and we all cried buckets. Chadwick Boseman, one of the great guys, and then we went to an after party at the Roosevelt. So we're hanging out with those guys, and the weirdest combination of people ever. Boy George, Damon John, Shark Tank, Jim Gaffigan, the stand-up comic, and a bunch of others. Like, how do they wind up in the same room together under any scenario that makes sense? But it was a blast.
I can't see Boy George ending up in a room with anybody else.
He was so much fun. He's
so unique.
He's plumper now, as we all are, and as we get older. And if he caught us, my son and I looking at him, and he looks at us and goes, "Yes, I am." Like that.
That's great.
Have a very interesting question. So now this is off the wall.
Okay, 42.
When you were growing up, okay, and you were in school, did you still have this kind of an imagination? Because if you did, I bet you were really awesome in school.
No, I did well in school, but I've always, even before I can read and write, I was telling stories with toys. I always wanted to be a storyteller. I've never wanted to be anything else. I've done other things, plenty of other things, but telling stories in one way or another is always what I wanted to do. And like with my buddies in the street, if we wanted to play a game, I'd make up the game, make up the rules, usually based on either some gladiator picture or a horror show or something that I was watching. I would figure out a storyline and the rules, and we'd play games. And so, all my life I was doing this sort of stuff. And, I was also reading comics my whole life. I started comics in 1966. Fantastic Four 66. I think, I forget what year that came out. But my first comic is up on the shelf up there. I was reading these wonderful stories by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee and all the other guys. And I pulled that into, I would draw my own comics in first and second grade. They're awful. The plot makes no sense. But apparently I was having fun at the time. The little kid was having, and they went on for page after page after page. So I was always a creative weirdo. And now being a pop culture nerd creative is actually cool, which I never thought it would be cool.
Do you still have those little drawings and stuff from when you were a kid?
I have some of them, yeah. I even have some pages of the comic book. Had Kazar and the X-Men and Spider-Man, and everybody was in it. I think every Marvel character that was available at the time was in that comic.
Wow. That would be kind of neat to see. You should put that together in something and just carbon copy it and say, this is my first try.
Yeah, I should. I showed it to some of my friends at Marvel when I was writing for them, and they're like, oh, this is interesting. Little boy.
How neat.
I was for young Sheldon over here.
It would make a great backstory. Just throwing it out there.
And the other thing that really piqued my imagination was I started reading science fiction and fantasy early. In fact, right behind me, you see my fingers pointing that book. It's Conan the Wanderer. It's the very first book I ever bought. I think I was 8, maybe 9. I'm not sure, but it was the first book I ever bought with my own money. As opposed to the books you get in school. And I gobbled it up and got into all the Conan stuff and Michael Moorcock and Edgar Rice Burroughs, and I was off and running from an early age. And so I wanted to tell those types of stories. I even sought out the kinds of stories that I would want to write. Sword and sorcery, science, world, sword and planet stuff. John Carter of Mars sort of thing. And it's funny because I've gotten to write a lot of that since. I mean, I wrote a Solomon Kane story recently for an anthology. One of Robert E. Howard's characters. I'll be doing a Conan story. I did a John Carter of Mars story. So it's fun that I'm also in that phase of career where I get invited to do creative stuff in other people's worlds. So I get to play with their toys.
Yeah. How neat.
Yeah. It's a strange old world.
It's wild when what gets opened up to you. You just stop resisting.
Yeah. Stopping the stop resisting thing is a big thing because a lot of writers front load their whole approach to writing with fear. I'm going to get rejected. Yes, we all get rejected. Why focus on that? Why put that out as what you want the universe to verify? How about I'm going to get in print? I'm going to sell. I'm going to make money and have fun. I'm a big believer in the positive energy approach to things. And, I've wanted to do this my whole life. And when the opportunities came along, like with comics, I didn't actually approach Marvel. They approached me. They read the first of the Joe Ledger books. The editor-in-chief of Marvel read the first of the Joe Ledger books on an airplane, flight from LA to New York, and looked me up, called me and said, hey, I really like the way you handle action and dialogue. Any chance, and it's the silliest question I've ever been asked, any chance you might consider writing for Marvel?
Hell no.
Let me think about it for a minute.
I'll call you tomorrow and let you know.
Well, now, they have been saying that the writers for the comic books don't get paid very well. I don't know how much truth that is, but...
Now, if you write for Marvel, you get paid really well. They are by far the top dog in terms of pay rates for writers. Depends on which artist they're working with. Like they're usually the artist gets 2 to 3 times what a writer gets for a good reason. It takes me 2 seconds to say double page spread, Manhattan blows up. The artist has to draw that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know? So of course they get paid more. The difference is they get paid more up front. The writer gets the royalties on the graphic novel because it's all based on the script. And some of the artists that they work with are kind of new, and they have a global market of cartoonists to work with. So some of the guys are not getting great rates, or even getting less than I was getting paid for my writing page rates. But it's a foot in the door, and it's Marvel. If you've done some stuff with Marvel, you can go to any company and get better rates. So it's kind of like it's kind of worth doing for the credit for if you don't have a real foot in the door otherwise. A good example, my buddy, I'm kind of blanking on his name. He's a friend of mine. He did my V-Wars covers. Ryan Brown. Now he started out doing covers for IDW. He did my V-Wars covers, and they were fantastic. Did the cover for the board game based on it. It was great. And then he started doing Marvel. As soon as he started doing Marvel, everyone wanted him. He can pick and choose gigs. And that's great. I love seeing that. So, it may not be the best, sometimes always the best paycheck, but the career benefit is virtually priceless. Same with writers too. I've written for Marvel. I've won. I've gotten on the New York Times bestseller list with Marvel Zombies Return several times, actually. Even if I wasn't a novelist, I could take that and just stay in the comic business forever, just writing comics, because I'm a Marvel guy now. It's this weird little credit. It's like they teach you the secret handshake, and you're in now.
It's club.
Now, when you're when you're writing a comic book, and you just hit on something I wanted to ask you about, you have to write not only the storyline, you have to write how you want to visualize it. As opposed to a novel, does that take you longer?
Well, longer per page, sure. It takes about 2 to 3 times as long as writing a short story, because a short story, it's it's your vision, your imagery, and so on. But when you're writing the visuals, I mean, I am an artist, but I'm not a good artist. I'm like an amateur artist. At least it gives me enough so I can understand composition, and enough so that when I look at comics, it may be a little easier for someone with a little art background to be able to look at comics and see how much of the story is driven by the artist. I didn't know about until I started writing scripts how much the writer is involved in that process, and you find out, and so you decide how many panels are on a page, how what art is on the page, and how much of the story is told in the art or in little things that go on in the backgrounds of the art, and how much is told in dialogue. And you also, Joe Hill and I have had the same moment. Joe Hill, Lock and Key, Stephen King's oldest son. He and I had exactly the same moment with 2 different artists. Early in his run in Lock and Key, and early in my run in, I think it was my Punisher standalone graphic novel. Joe and I both love dialogue, and so we threw a lot of dialogue in there. And then we both get notes that say, "Love your dialogue, but at any point, do you think the fans might want to see the actual art?" Because the word balloons just hide everything. And there is art behind those word balloons, by the way.
Okay.
So we both had to learn how to edit down, which is a completely different skill set than the way it's done in comics than in everything else. So there is a complete difference in the way you write both, but comics are pretty demanding. Sometimes it can take a day or two to really get a scene done, a 2 or 3 page scene, because you have to make sure that it flows. You have to be aware of when they're turning the page. So if there's a potential reveal, you have to balance it out so that if you do a 2-page spread, it's not on 2 sides of a page. It's on verso and recto right in front of you. All these little things have to influence how you plot out and pace the story, and then the art direction. And little funny anecdote. So I was working on a Marvel Universe versus the Punisher, one of my other Punisher projects. And I forget which issue it is, but at one point, the Punisher throws a whole bunch of hand grenades. And the art direction was, you see the grenades, the pins, and the spoons, all flying through the air.
Mm-hmm.
The artist, Goran Parlov, great artist, great guy, is Croatian, does not understand English that well. So when I got that panel, had grenades with by the way, the thing still in it. I had safety pins flying through the air, soup spoons, all flying through the air together. So then actually that had to be changed. So I what happened from that point on is if I was even a little unsure as to whether the artist would know what I was trying to describe, I would find an image from the net, put the URL in the script, or sometimes even cut and paste an image. Like if another artist had drawn Central Park to look like the Black Forest, I wanted Central Park to look like Central Park, so I included images of Central Park because that's where the Punisher's family was killed. So there's time getting the right image too. And for fight scenes, like when I was writing Shuri in the Black Panther, I wanted her to fight a certain way. And, teaching women self-defense was my specialty for 35 years of my martial arts career. And I had a certain way that I taught amateurs, people who never had fight backgrounds, and certain ways I would teach women who were athletes who had better hand-eye coordination and understanding of torsion and power generation and so on. So I created a fighting style for Shuri, and I had to take photos so that they would get it absolutely correct in the image. So there's a lot goes into it. It's fun, but it is time consuming.
It's not as fun as writing the novel. So
I'm a novelist at heart. I'm writing my 49th novel now, and I'm having just an absurd amount of fun doing it. Writing 3,000 to 4,000 words a day, every day.
Wow.
That's crazy. And if I had known all this fight stuff, I'd have just invited you in with Miranda.
Well, maybe I'll have a book on sometime.
We had to get rid of that echo. I don't even know what was going on there.
Yeah, it was only one before I came on. It was a weird echo chamber thing, but I can hear her with that echo. Just you guys were in an echo chamber.
Yep.
Gremlins happen sometimes, so
I think so.
I suspect demons.
So that's true. That's going to lead me to another question. I'm surprised a fan hasn't asked yet. Out of all your stuff, any paranormal or weird stories that you have from Bigfoot, ghosts, anything?
Well, I have two.
Oh.
That's my role. Those are my questions. How dare you?
One is I was there at the beginning of what is now an enduring urban legend. There's an urban legend in eastern Pennsylvania. You can look it up. It's called the Yardley Yeti. And despite the fact that they called it a Yeti, which is a newsman trying to be alliterative, Yardley Yeti, it was actually a dog-like creature, right? And people saw it running around. It was really bizarre. There are photos online, if you look at Yardley Yeti. My wife took. We were at a restaurant, came out, and we saw this thing running along. And it just was weird looking. It looked like kind of a demented love child between a dog and a kangaroo and a rat. Bizarre looking. And she took some photos, and then we kind of forgot about the photos. Then it starts showing up all over the news. People are seeing this creature, and a friend of mine who was a local police chief said, "Hey, didn't your wife take photos of some weird animal a couple of years ago?" And I said, "Yeah." And I sent him the photos, and he sent them to the news, the ABC affiliate. And next thing you know, I'm on the news talking about the Yardley Yeti. And now, the leading theory is that it is a red fox with mange. And it's almost certainly that. It's never been caught, but it's almost certainly that, because that causes deformation of skin and bone and other things. So it's actually sad. But even with animal experts telling people that it's not a supernatural creature, it's an animal with a disease, they don't want to believe it. They would prefer to believe in the urban legend. And I'm okay with that. Really am.
I'll let you your pictures.
Yeah, there we go.
Oh my gosh.
So the other weird thing that comes out of actually, if you go down below it, that one is the first one my wife took.
Chupacabra.
Yeah. And you can see the one in the center where he's nose to the ground. You can see the rat. You can see the kangaroo. You can see the. But anyway, so the other supernatural thing, and understand that my grandmother If you guys ever read the Harry Potter books or saw the movies, you know who Luna Lovegood is, the little girl who believes in everything.
Yes.
As an old lady, that's my grandmother, or that was my
That's what
grandmother.
my daughter was for Halloween this year.
Nice.
Luna
So
Lovegood.
my grandmother believed in all of the supernatural stuff. Vampires, werewolves, you name it, she believed it. Just all of it. So one of her hobbies, and I never knew the origin of the hobby, is she would take in wounded animals, mostly birds, and nurse them back to health. And weird birds too, like crows. There was a bald eagle once, a peregrine falcon. How people got these to her in the early 60s, I don't know, but I thought it was really cool. Later in life, and she was a spooky old lady anyway, she also, taught me how to read tarot cards at age 10, and I loved her. My sisters were terrified. I loved her. But she always said that she would look out for me. Roll forward a couple years later, some years later after her death, about 10 years later, I'm driving through a tunnel, not the Lincoln tunnels, one of the tunnels in Pennsylvania. Go through the tunnel, road speed 70 miles an hour. You got cliffs on this side and a drop off on the other side. I'm tooling along, listening to some Tom Waits real loud, driving maybe a little over the speed limit. And I see a bald eagle come swooping down right across the road, like 6 feet above the road, maybe less. So, of course, I hit my brakes so I don't hit the thing, slow down, and as I slow down, my wheel came off. The plate, where it's bolted to, broke off. So instead of 70 miles an hour on a curve with a sheer drop-off, I'm going 5 miles an hour, coast to the side. Now, that's one time, and it was one of the types of animals, birds my grandmother had taken care of. But I didn't really, go too far into belief. Then about 15 years later, I'm driving another road, very similar, twisty road, high speed, because it was actually posted 55 miles an hour, which for that road is ridiculous. And again, a sheer drop off. And as I'm going along, a red-tailed hawk flew right across my car. It's so low, its wing brushed my hood, hit the brakes, slowed down as I'm going around the curve, still braking, 5-car pile up right there. I would have hit it at full speed. Now, twice, birds of the type my grandmother nursed back to health saved my life. I know Pennsylvania has a lot of birds. I know it can be coincidence, but you will never convince me it wasn't my grandmother.
Oh, I
don't think I would argue with that. No.
Yeah, because it was just too weird, and I mean they're almost identical circumstances with those kinds of birds. Like statistically speaking, that's freaky.
That's beyond coincidental.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's up there laughing too. Saying, Oh, and to make it better, she was actually born on Halloween, and when she gave me my first puppy, who was also born on Halloween, named Spooker. Doberman Mastiff mix. I love that dog.
Wow. Did you ride it to work?
Funny, he was run to the litter until he was about 5 months old.
You put a saddle on him like never in the story dog.
You pretty much could. And he also lived a long time. For most dogs usually that big generally don't live past 9, 10. He was 16 when he decided he just wandered off one day. We never saw him again. Probably,
They do say that dogs do that, especially if they're loyal to their owners.
Yeah, they don't
want
want
to die around them.
So yeah, I've had some weird things happen, and I'm open to it. I would love to see a ghost. Never have.
Ugh.
I'm dipping my toe.
Overrated. I see them all the time. I'll send one your way.
Yeah, I'm also one of those people that doesn't believe that evil is a supernatural construct. I think evil is a human construct. So I think of this in the supernatural world, what my grandmother called the larger world. I just believe in positive and negative energy that, depending on the person, it can be turned, in whatever direction. Personal opinion. I'm not proselytizing.
That's like darkness is just the absence of light.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, now dealing with all the celebrities and things in Hollywood, you hear all these weird things that they do. Are they really that weird, or is that just stuff urban legend? Or
honestly, I think a lot of it is made up so they get in the news. Like if their last show wasn't that big, or if they haven't had a show for a while, they'll go do something bizarre. But most of them are like really down there. Like Ian Somerhalder. Everybody thinks he's. First off, he's absurdly handsome. He's like criminally handsome, which is when I stand next to him, I feel like I just crawled out of a cave where the other trolls are. But He's a good family man. He's devoted to his wife. They have two kids. In fact, they just had a baby about 2 months ago, the second kid. They live on a horse farm, and they take in rescue animals constantly. They donate to charity, and they're involved in environmental causes. Like, how do you not? It's like, this guy's a great guy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
People like Jerry Zucker. He and his wife host these really cool parties in Brentwood, and you know, he directed Ghost and Airplane and those films. He has these wonderful parties where he brings in experts in different fields of science, so that screenwriters, producers, and novelists will get our facts right. You know, that's Hollywood.
That's a service. That's a service to everyone there.
Yeah.
And some of the folks, like I hear from actors, you know, Charisma Carpenter and Lou Diamond Phillips and other people on social media, and they're just, you know, they're actors looking for the next gig. They're just people looking for the next, you know. The problem I think a lot of folks have is we conflate them with either the characters they play, mm-hmm. or the version of them that appear in the tabloids or People magazine and so on. And they're not that, you know. Just like, you know, they talk about writers being, you know, always moody and aloof. Some are, most are not. The horror writers probably the most well-balanced crowd. Good family people, pretty well-balanced. And I think part of it is we write out our weirdness, you know, better out than in.
I use one of Stephen King's strategies in getting guests for my podcast, and his goal was to fail as many times as possible to get published, and he had to get a fencing nail to hang into the side of the wall to hang his rejection letters.
We all know that's like.
Yeah, I use that one. How is Dan Brown? He's my favorite author, I believe.
I had drinks with him at Thriller Fest probably 15 years ago, and very low-key, humble mm-hmm. guy who was just totally surprised at how well the Da Vinci Code did. And I told him that I like the model of it so much because what he did with the thrillers, by the way, prior to Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code, most thrillers had really long chapters. Mm-hmm. The idea was don't break up the tension with short chapters. But the problem is most people read before bed or whatever, and they never get to the end of the chapter. They fall asleep, and then they blame the book for putting them to sleep, despite the fact they're reading to fall asleep. By the way, so you know, can't look at that too closely. But Dan Brown,
somebody that does that.
Yeah, Dan Brown based his on the old pulps, the Doc Savage and the Shadow thing, where every chapter was real short and ended with a narrative hook that made you want to turn the page. So you're constantly able to get to a chapter if you need to stop, but at the same time, each chapter pulls you forward. The novel itself is no better or worse than any other thriller. The structure made it compelling reading, and all of us have copied that structure. Mm-hmm. Now, short
he casually killed Robert Langdon, and just like, okay,
yeah. But Dan's a great guy. You know, he's chill. You know,
he got me through college. Deception Point and Angels and Demons.
Yeah,
Digital Fortress.
And there are also some writers that have reputations for being weird, but I think they're the ones who are just really painfully shy, like Thomas Harris, who did, you know, the Silence of the Lambs books. Mm-hmm. Not a social human being. Okay, fine. There's Dean Koontz is fairly agoraphobic. He doesn't like going out of his house. Okay, you know, we're not forcing you to do it. Keep writing. But most of the folks are just ordinary folks who this is what they do. They can't fix pipes, so they're doing this.
Yep, don't blame them.
Much better.
Most of it seems pretty fulfilling, to be honest.
It is, and when you get down to the grassroots level of it, it's not a competition. There's we who are successful pros want more people in the playground. We want a lot more people in, because the more people turning out good books, the more readers will be attracted to books. There's no downside to it. And it's also more fun to play with other kids, but you know, if they're in the playground. So we like geeking out with our writer friends. You know, go to most writing conventions or most pop culture conventions. We gather at whatever place has drinks, alcoholic or non, to hang out and have fun. We call it BarCon, by the way. Where we are, it's BarCon. And they're just very chatty, very social, really nice folks.
Now, when you start a new book, how do you storyboard it? Do you do like a conspiracy theory, like with an idea here that leads to like a string over here that goes here?
I don't have a conspiracy theory or manhunt board, though I have thought about doing them just to confuse my family. But no, I plan my books well in advance. And what I do is I read a lot of nonfiction. I subscribe to newsletters. I subscribe to trade journals. I look for what's going on in science, in various fields of science, history, what they're uncovering, archaeology, paleontology. I look at politics and so on, because there's always something new or interesting happening, or something they found out. And like I love nonfiction books on like mysteries of history, or unknown or unsolved crimes, things like that. Because if there's a mystery attached to it, or a crime attached to it, or something, that means there's a bit of information nobody has. Mm-hmm. And that is my doorway into writing a story.
There's your open area, open end.
Yeah. I'll give you an example. I was invited to write a short story for an anthology in West Virginia called Legends of the Mountain State Volume 2. And they assigned each writer a bit of West Virginia folklore. And they gave me the legend of the Greenbrier Ghost, the most well-known bit of folklore in all of West Virginia. Everyone knows the complete story. So I'm thinking, well, how do I write the story? Turns out there was one little element they didn't know. There was a woman who claimed that her murdered daughter was coming to her in visions and telling her that her ex-husband had murdered her. And she was so compelling telling the prosecution, they opened the case, but they didn't want to put her on the stand because they thought the jurists would think she was nuts.
Yep.
So somehow the defense found out that this is what her claim was, and they put her on the stand to try to discredit her. What happened is, well, first off, nobody knows how they found out. Turns out that, by the way, her testimony was so compelling, the guy was convicted. But because nobody knows how the defense found out, well, there's my opening. And it turns out that happened around the same time that, according to the chronology of Sherlock Holmes stories, he and Watson were in America. Sherlock Holmes story set in West Virginia. You look for that moment and you dive in. V-Wars started as I subscribe to a lot of newsletters. I think it was a Popular Science newsletter back in 2010 about how they're afraid that with melting polar ice, that it's going to release viruses and bacteria trapped in permafrost, which we have since found to be true. But back in 2010, it was more theory than fact. And I immediately jumped on that and had melting polar ice release a disease form that when you catch it, it triggers dormant genes that present for different symptoms. Those symptoms historically were how people came to believe in vampires. Teeth changes and hunger for blood and so on. So it was science fiction take on it based on what was in the news. By the time the first volume of V-Wars came out, that story was everywhere in the news. So it makes the writer look very prescient if we're actually paying attention to what the scientists are talking about right now. And I've since cultivated a list of experts. So based on what my experts, a virologist from one book that I've used for one book will email me and say, hey, here's something you haven't heard about. It won't hit the news for a while. Maybe you can use that. And of course, I'm going to use it. So when I get the idea, I then work out what the stakes would be, how much real science I need in order to sell the fiction part of it. When I get a sense of it, I map out the novel as an outline, fairly loose outline, because I want to be able to make changes as I go, but enough of an outline so there's that mathematical formula of cause and effect that takes you from this action to this action to that inevitable ending. So I do have I do plan my books out. And so right now I'm doing research for the Joe Ledger novel I'll be starting right after Labor Day. And it will deal with cryonics. Mm-hmm. It'll deal with the genetics of bringing things back that have become extinct and a few other things. And so I'm doing that research now. I'm talking to experts now. So when I sit down to write the book, I'm locked and loaded to be able to just go right in and write the story. And I'll do it in 3 months.
Wow. Is it going to be with the dodo bird or the mountain moa?
Yeah, it didn't take me 3 months to write my first book. It took me 3.5 years to write my first book. You get faster. That's
still kind of quick.
I don't know.
In my mind, it is.
Well, it really depends. I mean, my background wasn't creative writing. I went to Temple University as a journalism student. We were taught to research fast, write it quick and dirty, fix and rewrite, move on. And I think that's influenced a little bit of my speed in my fiction career.
Cool.
Could be.
Yeah.
At that journalistic speed.
Yeah.
Like a dual threat.
Yeah, and also not caring if your first draft sucks, because all first drafts suck. I mean, we call them the shitty first draft for a reason. So it is. Just get the damn thing done. Pretty it up afterwards. Get it off to your editor, and then wait for notes. And while you're doing that, you're doing something else.
That's how the government does everything. It's basically our national defense plan. Don't want to disappoint anyone.
Yeah. You had
as it goes along.
you had COVID down back in 2010 before COVID was a thing. So
I did. Also had the actual COVID a couple times. That was no fun.
No, we were discussing that before the show. Actually,
actual COVID.
I went through a string last year where every time I went to a major convention, I came away with something. I'm not talking about souvenirs, COVID twice, got double pneumonia right before Comic-Con last year. It really sucked. I hate missing Comic-Con.
Oh, you didn't go?
No, that one I missed, but I had just come from a regional conference, a convention with a whole bunch of fans, and I was signing a bunch of books and shaking hands. And apparently one of those people had pneumonia, because I went up with it a couple days later.
Do you ever come to the giant con here in Huntsville, Alabama?
I have not. Though I have been to Huntsville a number of times in the past.
They have a big one here every year.
What
Shatner came last year.
What's it called?
Something con. We can always call it Comic Con in Huntsville.
Alabama Con.
Huntsville's Comic Con's all we call it.
All right,
She's like comic book convention or something.
Yeah, I love Alabama.
Good pitch there, Bobby.
What am I going to do? I don't know. I don't read things. I'm from Alabama.
Yeah, cons are fun. I go to cons all over the world.
The last one we had here in Texas, Chuck Norris was there, and I thought to myself, what does he have to do with Comic-Con?
Well, a lot of Comic-Cons aren't comics; they're pop culture, and he did a bunch of movies.
He's Chuck Norris. How dare you?
Have you met Chuck Norris?
I have met Chuck, and quite a few times when I was a younger guy.
And you're still alive.
Before the movies.
He didn't try and beat you up or anything?
No. I interviewed him for an article I was doing about one of his instructors, and I actually became pretty good friends with Bill Wallace, Superfoot Wallace. Remember him?
Yeah.
And a few of the other folks. But Chuck was always around. He used to referee a lot of stuff, or he'd be a guest at an event where right before the title card, he'd come out and say some stuff to the folks, do maybe a couple of things with one of his buddies to show some technique, and he seemed a nice enough guy. His brother Aaron was a friend too for a while, but that was a long time ago. I was back in the first time I met him was probably 1970. Last time I saw him was probably 1988, 89, somewhere in there.
Wow.
Yeah. And then out of all the celebrities and people, who are you most flattered has read your work?
Oh wow. I don't know where your politics are, so I'm gonna hope nobody throws something at the screen. But I found Barack Obama is a big fan of my writing.
That's pretty cool.
Follows me on Twitter.
That's a president.
Yeah, that's hard to top. Yeah,
and because of that, Wayne Brady became a fan of the Joe Ledger books.
Wayne Brady. In fact, Wayne's going to join me down at Comic-Con. Holy shit!
He. What happens? The way I found out about Wayne, I was doing it with the Joe Ledger books. Aside from the novels, there's also short story collections, and there's the anthologies where I have my friends write Joe Ledger stories. And I invited one of my buddies, Maurice Broadus, to write a story because I know he read the books, and he asked if he could write it with the guy who turned him on to it, happened to be Wayne Brady. And I'm like, wait, the Wayne Brady? And they wrote a story, and it's great, it's fun, and it's Wayne's first published fiction. And so we've been trying to figure out a time for the two of us to get together for dinner, and we'll figure we'll just do it at Comic-Con. So we're going to do it at Comic-Con. But he was one. The other was George Romero, and George, Night of the Living Dead. I snuck into movies at age 10 to see the world premiere of Night of the Living Dead. October 2nd, 1968, Philadelphia Midway Theater. Wow. Saw it twice. Best movie. It was amazing. And when I was on a panel with him, I didn't know he'd ever read any of my stuff. And at the time, I had 2 zombie books out. The first Joe Ledger book is a zombie book, and then I had my Rotten Ruin books. And he said, "Oh yeah, somebody gave me this book about a bunch of kids growing up 14 years after the zombie apocalypse, and it sounds like they grew up right after Night of the Living Dead." And I said, "Essentially, they did. We're on a panel together." And he said, "I love that book." Later on, after we'd done like 200 panels together, I asked him if I could do an anthology of stories around Night of the Living Dead. And one of his conditions was he wanted to do it with me. So we actually, it was the last thing he did before he died, is this book.
Awesome.
And he even had me, one of the conditions was to edit. One condition was he wanted to write a story for it. Yes, of course. And then the third was he had become fans of my Dead of Night series. And there was a character in the second book that he really loved, but the guy is presumed dead. And he said, "Why don't you write a story where he's not so much dead, just injured, and bring him from where that novel left off all the way to the house in Night of the Living Dead, so we can officially say that your book is a prequel to Night of the Living Dead." And I may have ugly cried. I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh, I don't blame you.
Yes.
That's a.
And the other guy that surprised me, this one still freaks me out. I was in Texas at Comic Palooza. I forget whether it was Dallas or Houston. Big con. I was having fun. I was sitting there at my table, and right across from me was the whole cast of Rocky Horror. I was having the best day. And Stan Lee walks up with 4 bodyguards. Now I'm 6'4" and roughly the size of Sasquatch. His bodyguards made me look like a little prima ballerina. And Stan was only this big,
Yes.
He comes up and they drop a stack of my Captain America Hail Hydra graphic novel on my table. And he says, "I want you to sign these." I'm like, hello? I'm zoned. I've never been starstruck before. I was starstruck then. He loved the comic. He loved the cover of it. And if you get a chance, look up Captain America Hail Hydra with my name. It's not the one where it turns out Captain America is part of Hydra. It's not that. But there's a really cool photo of Captain America kind of striding across, aimed up at him. And Stan Lee said, "And I like this cover because I call it the Crotch of Liberty." That's the angle, unfortunately. I told the artist that later on, and he said he's going to kill himself. But we both signed them. He sold them on eBay to raise money for a charity.
The Crotch of Liberty.
He read 3 of my comics and really liked them. And we shook hands. We met a couple more times. And, so it's always weird when even now, it's weird when anyone, any celebrity tells me, "Oh, I've read your books." I'm like, really? Because you think it's lip service, and then they tell you a plot point. I'm like, "Oh, you actually have read my book. I need to go over, sit down a little bit, and take my pills." I'm still a comic book nerd at heart. This being famous thing is weird to me.
I bet it's a different shift
at all. I certainly don't take myself that seriously. So
I got recognized for a blog I did 10 years ago on a boat ramp, and I was like, who the hell are you talking to? I can't imagine if everybody you saw knew who you were.
Bobby jumping in the water and butt naked.
Hey, feel free to use that in a book. But
I was putting
I have to.
I was putting my kayak in the water, and somebody said, "Are you the guy from that blog?" I'm like, "What? Oh, yeah, I guess I am."
The weirdest recognition from the past, though, is I was at a book signing in Pennsylvania 8 years ago, and one of the guys come to me, to my table to get like 3 or 4 of my books, and he was vaguely familiar, but not really familiar. Kind of way somebody is that when you knew them years ago and they've changed since. And he said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't." And he said, "Second round knockout, 18 seconds. You hit me with a front kick and overhand right and put me in the hospital." I'm thinking, he's going to pull out a gun now. And he said, "I have told everyone I've ever met that story." And he said, "I've always wanted to meet you and shake your hand because you made me a better fighter. I actually went out and learned boxing to help with my karate." And I'm like, okay. So we went up going out and having beers.
That's great.
It was a weird moment. It's like, you don't know how to react to that. You knocked me out. Like, I'm sorry. I'm a nice
Are
guy.
you going to shoot me?
You know.
Is this Batman origin story?
It's a weird life, man. I tell you, it's
Sounds
not
like
normal.
an interesting life. You have a very fulfilling, interesting life.
Yeah, it is now. My childhood was less so. My father was a monster. You know, I mean, really a monster. He ran the local chapter of the KKK and was a child abuser. So not a good human being. That's why I got involved in martial arts in the first place.
Wow.
We had a violent confrontation when I was 14 that ended the cycle of violence in my house.
You put a stop to it?
Well, it's kind of hard. He spent a lot of time in intensive care, so I would say he got the point. You know,
He understood. Message received.
Memo, yeah, it was good memo, yeah.
one does like to be eloquent, so one is not misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
True.
You got to speak. You got to articulate every word. Enunciate. I have a hard time getting understood because I talk like a hick, so I have to like articulate at work. I'm like, yes, please, ma'am. You're going the wrong way.
Oh, you know, when I flew as a paramedic and we would go way up north, they'd go, just talk. I'm like, what the hell you want me to say? God, after a while, I was like, my partner, the nurse, she was like, just come on, Glenn, come on.
Just talk.
Yeah. I often say that if I'm in any group where there are cops, EMTs, ER doctors, paramedics of any kind, EMT, and firemen, just shut up and listen because you're going to hear the best stories.
Oh yeah, they are the best.
I mean, the experiences of what it takes to do some of the jobs, like some of what you guys are doing there, the average person doesn't have a clue. I mean, they may encounter you in your profession once or twice in their life, but every day you're doing something, and every day it's going, no matter how similar, it's going to be different, and dynamic is different. So each one is its own little story. And a lot of the stuff that winds up in my novels comes from these sessions where I'm buying the pizza and the beer, shutting up and listening. Did that with Eric Haney once, if you know who he is. Eric Haney is the co-founded Delta Force.
Okay.
Out, if you buy him a fair amount of alcohol at a good New York bar, he will tell you the best stories.
I bet.
And,
Wow.
In fact, one of them is in my first real ledger book, because there was a point where Delta was getting all these alphas from all these special ops groups, and how do you figure out who's the team leader when everybody's an alpha? Because they don't do it by rank, it's by who's the team leader, and they put a bunch of them in the room to basically try to sit down and figure out who's has the best experience and so on. And when Eric walked in the room, he picked up a chair, hit one guy with it, hit another guy in the groin, and basically sucker punched these 5 other spec ops guys. And he said, "I'm team leader." I stole that and gave it to my hero, Formation Zero. I hear from so many special ops guys who know that story. It's like, "Did you get that from Eric?" I'm like, "It's possible."
Yeah, I've got a friend that was special ops, and he accuses me of beer boarding him to get the good stories. So I'm like, yeah, guilty.
I am so stealing that one, beer boarding.
Yeah, and so he says, you beer boarded that one out of me. You can't tell anyone. I'm like, lips are sealed.
But it's true. I mean, people who live in the real world, in real situations out there, generally have good stories to tell. And it is often true that truth is stranger than fiction, but it makes
very much so
when we borrow it and just change a few details.
Very much so. That was one thing I know when we first started.
My favorite Glennism is de-ass the area.
Yeah, de-ass the area. That's one of my favorite. I have used that in a patient care report. My chief used to get so mad at me because I have to go get Google to understand your reports, because I'll sit there and I'll make up where we Shantaed to the stretcher. I've used that one. So, and I have used that one too. EMS de-ass the area after the first shot was fired. Well, I was going to ask you, when we first started talking back months ago, I didn't know how many podcasts you had ever done or if you did them. And so I felt awkward coming to you, but at the same time, I was like, you can only say no.
Well,
so
about 300.
Okay, so we're not just one.
It's a great way for me to make new friends.
It's always
and also, podcasts are usually run by pop culture nerds of one stripe or another, which means they are my people. So I'm always among friends on a podcast like this.
Okay.
We could be sitting around having beers, having this same conversation. Maybe a little less focused on me, but the same basic conversation. Story topping each other with weird shit.
Without a doubt. I love it.
Pizza.
Well, Glenn's got moonshine at his house, so I think we should not go there.
Yeah, I told him earlier I said I'm a little bit nervous, so I'm just gonna have a little shot of moonshine. It's only 40 proof, so Tennessee can't put out the 120 proof anymore. So
I've had moonshine in Tennessee. I've had moonshine. I had a lot of moonshine in Kentucky too.
No.
After high school, my buddy and I hitchhiked across country for about a year. 1976, the old go to see America thing. We saw America. We saw the inside of a lot of bars. We drank moonshine in the hills. Found out later, and these were guys who were like 6 guys, 3 teeth among them. That level of moonshine.
That's good stuff.
They insisted that they drop the car battery in the vat, and I, having had a couple of drinks of it, I'm not entirely sure they were joshing me, because it's like, if it's not that, it is sulfuric acid. Good sulfuric acid, so I will have more.
Exactly. Just pour me another round.
I'm gonna die. I want this on my lips. Just, give me another.
Have you ever been asked to go on a Joe Rogan show?
No, I haven't. Though I did include Joe Rogan in one of my short stories. He's interviewing a guy who, a slacker teenager from San Diego, who outs himself as a werewolf.
That's similar.
My son's a huge Rogan fan. I've watched some of his stuff. I'm not. It's funny. I like pop culture podcasts, and almost no other kind of podcast. So it's one of those things. But Joe's a pretty cool cat.
I'm stuck on a docu-series right now about the Manhattan Project.
Ooh, nice.
Which is it's kind of a pop culture one, but I'm stuck on that. But Rogan, I went to school to have my own hunting show, and I ran into Rogan. I'm like, I want to be a podcaster. I don't want a hunting show. I want a podcast. He talks about hunting sometimes.
He's a good interviewer. He really, really listens, and he also, comes armed with good questions. So, there's a reason he's risen to the top of the game.
I'll stump somebody quick too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like say that. The fuck, I can't say it. What are you talking about? They'll just put a COVID warning on the Spotify, and that'll be it. You can always tell the good episodes because they have a COVID warning on top. So I'm listening to that. That one got good. Joe dropped something before that started. I guarantee it.
Famous words of, it is my opinion. My opinion.
Exactly. It's so you haven't written a whole lot of conspiracy theory things, but do you think about conspiracy theory things, or do you? I mean, I guess let me rephrase. You have written some conspiracy theory things. I shouldn't say that. I mean, how do I want to word it? Current conspiracy theory things. How about that?
Well, I guess the most. I mean, my Joe Ledger series again has a lot of conspiracy theory stuff built into it, both as intentional disinformation, misinformation, and actual stuff that nobody believes in but is real. So I play with all of it. Probably the time in which I dove deepest into that was my novel Extinction Machine, which deals with UFOs. I'm fascinated by them. I know a lot of the guys who are in the UFO community. In fact, some of those guys wound up in the book as experts my character talked to while trying to figure things out. I'll be doing some more with that, dealing with underwater UFOs for an upcoming novel. But yeah, I read a lot about the conspiracy theories. I form my own opinion on them. I am not a follower type of any kind. So I have some friends who are 24/7. It's what they're into. I'm not 24/7 into anything. I bounce around a lot of things. But if there's a cool conspiracy theory that somehow just like pulls on my coat a little bit, I'm going to go look it up, dive into it, largely for possible story. But if it catches my personal interest, if it ignites my, if it hits me, I'm going to want to write about it. So often that's the filter. If it's something that I would obsess on, I want to write about it.
So Tartaria, where are you?
What's that?
Tartarian mud flood.
Oh, I don't think I know that one.
Oh my gosh!
Well,
the next series. Good.
I'm not on my list. Hold on.
Write it down. Tartaria and Tartarian mud flood. It's a weird one. But you're like, wait a minute. It has to do with world fairs and a hidden empire.
All right. Hidden empires. I've written a lot about those. I wrote a lot about secret societies too.
Yeah, I was doing the shadow government secret society stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, shadow government secret societies. They play a big part in all of my books. And both as actual secret societies that turned out to still exist, one way or another, or fictional. Like there's one in my novel King of Plagues, where it's a group that what they did is they took a lot of existing conspiracy theories about secret societies and rebranded them as themselves. So they kind of let that become their own backstory to make it look like they've been around that long. And it was fun to do it because playing with I also, as a journalist, I'm very interested in the philosophies and practices of things like information, misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. And, when you write thrillers, you've got to be somewhat savvy on those. And there's always something new to say about that. People are finding new things out, whether it's a whistleblower or somebody retiring and writing their memoirs and revealing some truths. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with Stephen Greer.
Yeah. Unacknowledged.
Yeah. The testimony of all those scientists and generals and so on, all testifying in front of Congress. I mean, even if you don't believe in UFOs, these are all credentialed people who are endangering their careers by saying this. So that lends a little bit of credibility. Maybe lean in and pay attention. You can still disbelieve if you want to afterwards, but when the sources are that credible, at least pay attention and so that your decision, pro or con, is well informed. And also, I just think the world gets more interesting the closer you look at it.
Yeah, probably. Well, and that probably goes back to your journalism too, from back in the day. So, because you went to school and you didn't give your opinion on the news, you gave the news. So,
well, in a way, because I got my scholarship to Temple School of Journalism only a couple of years after Woodward and Bernstein did the All the President's Men. They were the ones that really launched the whole concept of the investigative journalist. I wanted to be the reporter that broke the big story and exposed the corruption and tore down the corrupt power structure and all that. And it's writing, it powered me all the way up to college. It got me my scholarship into college. And as soon as I got to college, I decided I didn't want to be a news reporter. I switched to magazine features. What can I say? But it was definitely my passion all through the mid 70s, because Woodward and Bernstein were superstars at that point. They were like rock stars.
And growing up in Washington, D.C. area, there was a couple of them that were like that. And so, yes. Yeah.
And one of the fun things about that is it doesn't matter which political bias you have. If it's good journalism, it's good journalism. And it shows that if you take your knee-jerk reactions and your extreme reactions and the demonizing of the other side out of play and just look at the facts and then comment on them in terms of, either political history or whatever else is in play here, a good piece like that will have people of all political leanings and ideologies listening, and that's where conversations start. I think it's one of the things that's absent right now is the fact that both sides are so far apart. There is no center where people are having reasoned conversations, and I'd love to see that come back. I don't proselytize my political views. I actually want to hear what other people have to say, even if I don't agree with them. I don't want to disagree with them just because they're the other side. If I disagree, I want to reason it, and it turns out I may agree on things too. So good journalism can start those conversations.
If only there were any good journalism left.
There are a few, but unfortunately, they work for assholes.
Right?
Yep.
Nailed it.
That goes right and left.
Yep.
Oh my god! I got a sound effect for that one.
Ding.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh mercy!
Glad he said it. It's on my lips, and I'm like,
Well, I know I don't want to keep you all night, but I do want to. One character you haven't written yet for, I don't know, Marvel, DC. Who would you like to write?
Well, it used to be Adam Warlock, and now he's in the Guardians of the Galaxy. From Marvel, it's tough because they've done a lot of my favorite characters. I actually would love to write the Fantastic Four. My favorite comic as a kid, first comic I ever bought. I hated all the versions of the movies they've done so far. I like bits and pieces of them, but I don't like the movie. Because also they don't do Doctor Doom right. I feel that when during my run on Black Panther, I did justice to Doctor Doom.
Okay.
It's a character I absolutely love, but actually, I think the comic I would like to do most is a DC comic. I would like to do a new version, brand new take on the New Gods.
Ooh. Okay.
I really loved what Jack Kirby created with those characters. I would love to do that. Or if they gave me, and I've asked many times, if they would allow me to restart Tomb of Dracula. My buddy Marv Wolfman wrote most of that, and it's my favorite horror comic of all time.
I don't see why they couldn't do that. I mean, it seems to be a popular genre. I mean,
well, they're edging back toward horror. There's some horror. They're hiring people to do horror novels, and this is going to sound weirdly egotistical, and it's not intended to be. They can't pay me enough to write one of those books now. They used to be able to, because they offered the Captain America books at one point, the novels. But my agent, who I am terrified of, as any human being would, because I think she is a Terminator from the future, which is exactly what you want as your agent. But she threatened to remove several of my internal organs if I took a gig at that pay rate, because they don't pay very well for those things. If they gave me a chance to write the comic, on the other hand, well, she has nothing to do with my comic decisions. So yeah, I would love to write the comic. But also,
it's funny. Miranda. It's funny. I was going to say Miranda was just talking about her agent too. It's not up to me. It's up to them. Yeah. Just before you came on.
And I did with my agent. She was the first agent I got, and her career and my career rose together. She's now one of the top agents in the business, and I'm one of the top 5 horror writers in the business. In terms of sales and stuff, I'm not talking about qualities. People much better than I am, but in terms of sales. And my agent has had a lot to do with that. She's guided my career. She's allowed me to do some vanity projects. Now, mind you, I can outvote her, and then she would quit, which I don't want to do. But the turning point for us was when somebody at Universal had been somebody's assistant was following me on Facebook. I don't know how or why. And when I'm sick, I tend to watch monster movies, and my bias is always toward werewolf films. So I was talking about werewolf films, and the next day I get a call from the vice president at Universal Licensing saying, "Oh, one of our assistants saw that you're a writer and you were talking about werewolf movies. Have you ever seen The Wolfman?" I'm like, I was discussing werewolf movies. Everyone has seen The Wolfman. It's the classic, 1941. Mm-hmm. And she said, "Yeah, but we're doing a new one, and we don't have a novelist because unlike Frankenstein, Dracula, Invisible Man, there was never a Wolfman novel." They're werewolf novels, but not the Wolfman. It was never a novel. And
I didn't know that.
yeah, and most of them didn't, And she said, "Could we, get you to write the novelization of this new movie?" And of course, I wanted to say yes right away, but my agent suddenly, appears like magic, like a demon summoned. And I said, "Yeah, I'll put you in touch with my agent. You guys can work out a deal, sure." My agent beat him up to get a good price, and it wound up being my first New York Times bestseller. So I'm glad I took it. But that price was so high compared to what you normally get for what's called a media tie-in writing piece that it was very hard to justify my taking any other novel-length projects like that. The only other one I took was a novel based on the Deadlands role-playing game. Fun RPG, steampunk, old history Western. But she's dead set against me doing any others. I have, however, done scores of short stories and comics set in other people's world. And now I'm the president of the International Association of Media Tie-in Writers, a position that I don't remember agreeing to, but martinis were involved. All I know is the next day everybody was congratulating me. We have fun with that. Again, I got to do a Hellboy short story, John Carter of Mars, True Blood, Wizard of Oz. I just did a Winnie the Pooh Cthulhu story for an anthology. It's an anthology of Winnie the Pooh Cthulhu stories, horror at Pooh Corner. How could I say no to that?
Right.
It sounds like a fever dream.
It does. It sounds like the punchline.
Winnie the Pooh Cthulhu.
But, so I get to play in other people's worlds, and Max Brooks invited me into a G.I. Joe anthology he was editing, and all sorts of stuff. And it's fun to do that stuff because sometimes it works out really well. And I'll give you one little anecdote about why I love doing that. So for the Wizard of Oz one, John Joseph Adams edited an anthology called Oz Reimagined. And I had just come off writing the third of my first three novels, which is a horror trilogy, very visceral horror. And they asked if I would write a Wizard of Oz story. And my initial reaction was, sure, I'll do a story where the Tin Man gets the heart of a serial killer and goes on the rampage with his axe. That sounds fun.
It does.
And I still probably could write that at some point. But as I was sitting down to write it, I was thinking, yeah, but who reads Wizard of Oz? Little kids. It would be self-indulgent for me to write that story that I would read. I'm writing for them. So I wound up writing the story about a little winged monkey girl, because in the books, the winged monkey were a sentient race enslaved by the witch. Before the witch, they were just a free society. Her wings are stunted at birth. She can't fly, so she goes to buy magic traveling shoes to go all the places her wings wouldn't take her. And even as I'm writing, I'm like, because it made no sense at all to what it was that I was normally doing. Went into the anthology, The Cobbler of Oz is the story, got mentioned in a lot of reviews, and then suddenly I got a letter from the estate of L. Frank Baum, the guy who created Wizard of Oz. And I'm thinking, oh my God, they're going to fry me for messing with this stuff. They said they loved the story so much and that it really spoke to children in the way that the original stories do, that now and forever it is a prequel to The Wizard of Oz.
What?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So yet another time where I may have ugly cried. I'm just saying.
That's
yeah,
we're changing history.
Yeah.
And it's not like it put a lot of money into my pocket. It didn't. It was a couple $100 for the story, but
it's in here.
Yeah, my God, it's still so teary. I'm getting teary just thinking about it.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been willing to at least try something out of my comfort zone. And it gave me such a taste for trying things outside my comfort zone that now I am known. Do you remember the old Life cereal commercials? Give it to Mikey, he'll eat anything.
Mikey likes it. Yes.
Yes.
I'm that for weird projects, which is why the Winnie the Pooh Cthulhu thing came up. It's like, let's see if Maberry will go for this. I'm like, oh, you're kidding me? You needed how many words, They're
probably betting on it.
Yeah.
Like Trading Spaces. They're like those two rich guys on that Eddie Murphy movie, Trading Spaces.
Yeah.
See if he'll do it. But he won't.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's fun to do it. And the epic fantasy I'm writing, I wrote because a publisher was asking their editors if they knew anyone who could pretty much or just drop what they're doing and write an epic fantasy novel for them. And everyone at the table looked at my editor and said, sounds like Maberry. I got a call. He said, do you want to write epic fantasy? I said, sure. I'd never written epic fantasy before, but why should I say no? And within, I think, 40 minutes, we had a deal in place. Trying something new. And I
That's
love
great.
it. That was Kagan the Damned, first one. And weirdly, the cover quote is from one of those writers that I started reading when I was a kid, Michael Moorcock. So
Wow.
That doesn't suck.
Any Transformers stuff?
Not yet. There was going to be a Transformers anthology, and the publisher just thought that the Transformers are so driven by visuals that it wouldn't work in prose. And the guys who are writing the comics are pretty much locked into the comics. They know the continuity, but they know I'm interested. So it's a possibility. Same with Turtles. One of my buddies is the co-creator of the Turtles, Kevin Eastman. He's the artist. He did some of my variant covers for V-Wars. And one of these days, if Tom Waltz, who's been doing such a great job for the last 20 years, we'll just go out and have a massage or sit on the beach for half an hour so some of us can write the Turtles, I'd be happy to jump in and write one.
That'd be great. Well, Kirkman's got the Transformers and G.I. Joe now, so
yeah,
which is so weird to me. So,
well, their licenses, companies will sometimes pull a license and give it to a different publisher just to see if they get fresh. Like when X-Files or not X-Files, Doctor Who was taken away from IDW and given to Titan, just to freshen things up a little bit. And Kirkman's doing great with his comic book company anyway. So.
Oh, everything he touches is gold. I think he'll do great with it. And I don't know if you read any of the Void Rivals, the first comic book that he just put out, where he introduced. They kept that under wraps. They didn't tell anybody that he had it.
Oh, neat.
And he introduced it in pretty much the last, quarter of the comic book. He had pumped this book up. This is going to be about two rival worlds battling each other, the typical stuff. And everybody's going to buy number one of Kirkman. Well, boom! At the end of it, he pops out with his Transformers and G.I. Joe surprise that no one knew was coming.
Nice.
And it's like, first off, how did he sit on that secret? But he wrote such a nice letter, and I'm looking forward to it because he wrote an open letter to the fans from his heart, about how that was the first movie Transformers in the 80s he'd ever cried at, and so he said, so it really touched him, and that he compared it to the Night of the Living Dead. He said it meant that much to him. Yeah. And he said he wants to combine the two, and I'm like, holy crap. If he does that, it'll be really good. So
as far as the keeping under wraps thing, I've got a couple projects that I have to keep under wraps. Like,
sure.
I did a short story recently for the Diablo 4 video game. I had to keep it under wraps for a long time. We just posted the story for free, or they posted the story for free online recently. But I loved writing it so much. I want everyone to know. Very grimdark, epic fantasy stuff. And Alma Katsu did another one, and I think Tamsin Muir did one, but mine was the violent one. Big surprise. I've got another project I did where there had been a movie company that made a science fiction movie. I can't tell you the title of it because of an NDA. Some years ago, it was very popular, but it was a standalone, and they wanted to start a publishing arm in their movie house. So what they did is they hired me to come in and write prequel novels to that movie. And I wrote them, and I'm like, well, when are they going to be published? And they said, well, here's the thing. Turns out the guy who wrote the original movie asked if he could read the prequel novels, and we let him. And now he wants to pitch a TV show that includes elements from your prequel novels, and it's going to that deal is happening, and it's going to star one of the actors from Star Wars. All I can tell you without them sending their legal ninjas after me, but. I loved writing the books. I want to talk about the project. I'm going to be an executive producer on the TV show, but I can't.
No shit.
And so Kirkman went the same thing. He probably wanted to tell everyone because he's almost certainly having way too much fun doing that. But now he gets to, Comic-Con's coming up,
Yep.
And I'll probably see him there and pat him on the back for doing something sneaky and wonderful.
Yeah, tell him I said hi. So, yeah, like he'd know me. But yeah, I mean, it really did. It was a shocker. What's that?
Has he been on your show?
No, sir. I would love to have him on my show.
You guys should send me a wish list in case there's somebody I know well enough to be able to push them in your direction. I'm having fun, so.
Hey, yeah. We're having fun too. Yeah, and like you, this is about having fun. This is about where it's like a couple people just sitting around BSing, and it doesn't have to have a script or written questions. And
sure as hell doesn't have to be pretentious and everybody trying to act like they're trying to win a Pulitzer.
What was your proudest moment?
Nerds, man. We read books and comics and play games and watch movies, and we're proud of it.
Absolutely. I guess Brenda was having some internet problems earlier, so I don't know if she lost her internet. Hopefully she'll pop back in here, but I don't know.
Dead.
What's that?
Always possible she was abducted by aliens. Just saying.
It is Brenda we're talking about.
The first time.
They had to get that special lift for the wheelchair, though, so it's kind of.
She's got the free card. She gets a free trip the next time she goes, and a free sub sandwich.
Did you say in Georgia was where the Subway shop posted their sign out front, "Our subs don't implode," and they're in trouble for it?
It's too soon, but it's also hilarious.
That's America.
That's the first thing I said. Too soon, but that was great.
That is awesome.
They would have had to call the cops to get me from doing it that day if I worked there. Like, get back in here.
Well, that's why they didn't let rookies near me for the longest time. I used to have a story I would tell all the rookies when they would come out and get them out there. I'd be like, "Look, you're young. It's not too late. You still have a life. You can get away from this."
Well, same with bodyguard stuff. Because I was the last clown in the bodyguard business. It shouldn't have been, because they didn't pay us to be funny. They pay us to have no expression. Professional goofball. So you get what you pay for.
Well, and hopefully with your Second Amendment rights, you get to use some of them too. So,
well, technically in bodyguard, they like you to look big and shut up and pay attention. That's it. But there's a lot of downtime with the people you're protecting, and since we were protecting mostly rock and roll people who were under a credible threat of some sort. We were only hired when there was an actual threat that they were afraid of when the cops were investigating. A lot of times, just their nervousness would make them talk. So we'd be backstage and they'd be telling stories of the road, and I'm listening.
Wow, bodyguard, Rockstar, which
Springsteen, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, AC and the Sunshine Band. This is a long time ago. Fleetwood Mac, Bob Seger, comedian Joan Rivers. Sadly, Engelbert Humperdinck once.
Not many stories there.
No. And a couple of bands that have since disappeared. And also some bands that are still going. Boston, Kansas, which as a result, I wound up getting 11 broken bones. Somebody tried to steal their equipment, and I tried to stop the truck. And even my partner's running behind me yelling, "It's insured!" But I'm in a Superman moment, and you can't get it. Moment. Grabbed onto the side of the truck, foot on the running board, holding on the mirror, trying to steer it, and then he just went into the wall.
Oh!
Even when he's about to do it, he's looking at me like, "This is like a business transaction, dude. This needs to happen." But it is. Yeah, those good old days. My last day on the job, and I won't name this particular performer because he was the reason that he was being stalked. Is some bad behavior on his part. But the father of the girl that was in question in this showed up in the basement of the old Spectrum Stadium used to be in Philadelphia, the underground walkways and so on. He shows up, and we're in a concrete underground walkway. He pulls out a 6-shot revolver and empties the thing and hits none of us. 11 of us in a party. Bullets going everywhere. Nobody got hit. But one bullet hit the wall right here, right next to my head. And the words, career change popped into my head. I retired next day, 5 years.
2 week notice.
Oh no, not 2 week notice. I woke up and I'm like, called up the thing is like, yeah, I'm done. I'm done. And they don't even bother asking why, because they know I got shot at the day before. If I was a soldier, there'd be a cause, but I'm not getting shot at to protect the guy who had abused a teenage girl. I would rather the bullet hit him. But I just felt I had enough. You have so much luck in that business. It's a 5-year life expectancy, and I was 5 years in a day. And I'm like, that was the universe saying, did you not do this 5-year thing had passed? And of the 24 guys that went through the round of training with me, 11 of them had died.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of them were protecting U.S. oil men overseas. So life expectancy was 9 months. You work 6 month shifts. In 1978, you're working 6 month shifts for $10,000 a week. So you got all the guys who young and think they're immortal, and half of them got killed. And then there's diamond couriers, part of our gig. Nothing ever happened to those guys. Nothing. Only in the movies. And then there was those of us who were doing full point security with rock performers. And, I've got a whole bunch of, I've got a scar on my forehead. I got scars. I don't know if I can see the one on my arm. Can't. Big knife scar on my arm and scars on my wrists and ice pick scar on my stomach, et cetera, et cetera.
God.
I don't recommend that either.
So, just to update you, Brenda said that their power went out due to storms. So,
hope she's safe.
Yeah.
I think I may be having to wrap up myself here in a second.
Yeah.
Much as I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, it'd be tight. We can talk to you guys all night. So have me back on too. We got some fun stuff coming up, and I'll let you know when some really cool stuff is that I can talk about.
Okay.
I may holler at you for my show as well. It's different, but it's coming to yours.
Show?
My show is called The Caffeinated Cryptid with Bobby Dizzle. A lot of paranormal, but also we go all kinds of ways. 5 nonfiction books on supernatural folklore and cryptids. Well, we can talk about those. I'll even purchase one and read it because I can read now.
I'm glad your Alabama education got you that far, Bobby. You've got to promise to have me on as a co-host on Bobby. I had you, so it's only fair.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay. I'll listen to him. I'll try.
One of my upcoming novels is a Jersey Devil novel.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Oh, sweet.
That's my personal favorite, Jersey Devil.
All right. Well, good. I will get in touch with you and we'll have you back on, and I can you can find bobbydizzle.com, or I can just give you his email.
Tell your friends.
Give me his email. I'll have it that way.
I'll do it.
And thanks for having me on, man. This has been a whole bunch of fun. I had a great time.
Oh, yeah.
It is. It has been, and I appreciate it. And we'll get in touch soon. And man, I can't wait. And so you can tell Kirkman I said hello, and that I want to see some Transformers horror. So
I do too. I want to see the movie so bad.
Yeah, he's a really creative guy, and I'm glad he's done so much for the industry, and I'm glad he's doing so well as a result. Whether Walking Dead ended badly or not, he was not even working that much on it by that point.
He agrees, no. Bobby.
Yeah, I actually know he wasn't working on it as much then.
He does.
But when he was involved in it, it was good.
Yeah. It was, yes. Yeah, Bobby and I disagree that the ending wasn't that great. So, but
no, I thought the ending was.
I get sad because I read the books and I'm like, "What is this?" Shit.
Yeah.
Yep. So
the ending was basically setting up the sequels, and I think because we knew if they had kept it secret who was going to survive of the main characters, we'd have all been riveted. But we knew the ones we cared about were going to survive. We cared most anyway. So
true, except for Glenn. Glenn got off, but
my friend Mike Hudson got killed too, but he came back to the episodes.
I took to Glenn one a little personal, but
he died in the book anyway. He had no.
Listen, they could have changed that. Mr. Maberry, I appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much, and I am going to have you back. I really have had a great time tonight. It doesn't seem like we sat here and talked as long as we have, but we have.
No, not like that. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Always does. Always does.
So,
And
Glenn,
that's
Bobby, thank you. Brenda, thank you.
Yep.
And I had a lot of fun.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will be emailing you probably tomorrow, so the wife don't yell at me for staying up too late tonight. So,
All right, guys, be well, and I'll see you around the spooky graveyard that we all seem to like hanging out in.
I'm looking forward to it, sir. Got to get a Bigfoot story too. So,
I'm working on a Bigfoot story. I haven't gotten there yet, except the fact that I keep getting mistaken for one. But fair too. I mean, I actually do have 14 triple wide feet. I'm 6'4", so a case can be made that I'm a shaved Bigfoot.
Could be. All right, and I'm gonna look for you on the Bobby Dizzle show too. So,
Good. All right,
Bobby, thank you for co-hosting too. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no problem. Been a great time.
And we will see you soon, both of you soon. I'm gonna put Jaw backstage. Bobby, thank you again. Let me know. I'll get you in touch with him, and let me know when you're ready to do this show.
Yeah,
And,
I'll let you know. Probably a couple months.
Yeah, okay. No problem. Have a good one, sir. And I'm going to wind it down myself. And everybody, I'll tell you, I didn't anticipate for the show to go on for 3 hours. But I'll tell you, I don't mind one bit that it did. I hate that I lost Brenda along the way, but oh well. We'll get her back next week. Next week, I have not even looked ahead. Let's see. Who do we have next week on this show? This weekend, you can look forward to the Misfits on Saturday night at 9:00. There's a rumor going around there may be a new Misfit involved, so you might want to tune in for that. Next week, another show I've been looking forward to. I have Miss Katie Elizabeth coming on. She is the authority of lake monsters in Vermont and the United States. And if you didn't know, we had our own Loch Ness Monster here in the United States. You will know soon. So everybody, I appreciate you for tuning in. I appreciate the comments, the likes, shares. Please subscribe to the channel. It helps us. Thumbs up. It helps us too. And I'll try and get this turned around and into podcast form, the audio form, probably within the next 24 hours or so. So everybody, I appreciate everything. Thanks for all your emails and correspondence. And we will talk to you next week. You all have a wonderful night. See you soon. Bye now.